where shadows dwell, Gishgalop girl rides, casting her spell. Today they're gathered, truth on the line. Candace holds court where her ideology shines. Spotlights blazing, it's time to take a stand. Hear the whispers of the past, drown the lies. Tristan and Andrew in a web of disguise. But here comes the force with truth as their guide. Thomas and Matthew, ready for the ride. With voices strong, they'll break the facade. Avoiding the snares, they'll tear down the charade. Gishgalop flags raised, they're armed with the facts. Building a bridge where divisions attacked. Echoes of history painted in shades of gray. Candace weaves stories, but the truth won't decay. Step up to the platform, dismantle the pride. With a passion for justice they won't ever hide. Rising above the noise, they bring clarity. Hear the whispers of the past, drown the lies. Tristan and Andrew in a web of disguise. But here comes the force with truth as their guide. Thomas and Matthew, ready for the ride. Ignited, they'll face every storm. Gishgalop girl stands where justice is born. Amid the chaos, truth's power will reign.
Okay, hello everybody. You just heard the 16-bit Celtic theme. You may have heard a couple of names in there. Andrew and Tristan. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the Tate Brothers later today. That's also why I'm going to name this show Candace is Master-Tate-ing. Welcome to Gishgalop Girl. My name is ThomasAnderson, and I'm here with
MatthewAnderson.
Yep. So, yeah, let's. We're going to get into that a little bit later. And here's the thing. I'll explain this a little later, but I was so happy earlier today. But all of that the happiness will come after so much pain. At any rate, we're going to start this off with episode 17, Blackout, chapter 6, on education. So this chapter starts with Candace telling the audience to consider the word free for a moment. Mm-hmm. She says that the word free and the concept of freedom induces positive thoughts. Now, anyone that is familiar with our show by this point knows that Candace is building a brick wall here. She goes on to say that with the concept of freedom also comes personal responsibility. Like she's Uncle Ben from Spider-Man or some shit. She isn't wrong in that regard, which is why it's important for people to know how to adult before they leave home, if that is possible. It isn't always possible, but most people manage it eventually, I think. She says that freedom is the reward for dealing with personal responsibilities. I don't entirely disagree. She goes on to say that slavery is the ultimate example of removing personal responsibility. Candace says that slaves were prevented from assuming any obligations for themselves, and this is mostly true. And then we get Candace quoting President Lyndon B. Johnson when he gave a speech to historical black university, Howard University, and he said that, quote, "Freedom is the right to share fully and equally in American society, to vote, to hold a job, to enter a public place, to go to school. It is the right to be treated in every part of our national life as a person equal in dignity and promise to all others." Candace asserts that he was correct, but that he continued the address by saying, "But freedom is not enough. You do not wipe away the scars of centuries by saying, 'Now you're free to go where you want and do as you desire and choose the leaders you please.'" Candace stops there and says that he was wrong, and that being freed was enough for black Americans. What she is failing to mention as she goes on a rant about how everything was now fine and that racism had been solved with the stroke of a pen, What she is failing to mention are some very real issues that were immediate. When Johnson addressed Howard University, a year later, one of the key items he was talking about was the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which had just been passed 1 year after the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Because assholes in the former Confederate States of America didn't quite get the message, it had to be further clarified what the fuck voting rights were supposed to entail for everyone. It had to be clarified that they needed to eliminate discriminatory practices. The Voting Rights Act outlawed literacy tests and similar devices that were historically used to disenfranchise racial minorities. It also targeted poll taxes, which were later deemed unconstitutional in state elections by the Supreme Court in Harper v. Virginia Board of Elections from 1966. So that was 1 year after the Voting Rights Act was passed. The Supreme Court had to be like, hey, poll taxes are fucked up.
Yeah.
You can't do a poll tax.
No.
Federal oversight and pre-clearance. The Act introduced a pre-clearance requirement mandating that jurisdictions with significant histories of voting discrimination obtain federal approval before making any changes to voting laws or practices. This was primarily enforced through Sections 4 and 5 of the Act. Federal examiners and observers. It provided for the appointment of federal examiners to oversee voting registration in jurisdictions with histories of discrimination, ensuring that eligible voters could register without facing intimidation or obstruction. Candace avoids all of this very clear, real, and knowable history. She goes on to say some pretty different stuff that I hadn't encountered before. That is not to say that it's good.
It's usually not.
It's not.
I mean,
no.
I mean, the only decent thing she had to say in recent times was the Israel thing, and that we quickly found out how bad that went into the other field of things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, yeah, there shouldn't be a genocide going. Okay, you're going the wrong direction here.
There shouldn't be a genocide. Oh, you just don't like it because the Jews are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how it would go if it was, other...
Christian state.
Well, and other Muslim state, like, Saudi Arabia.
True. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she hasn't had shit to say about Saudi Arabia.
No.
Yeah.
Well, except that, clearly 9/11 was an inside job, and there's no way that the Saudi Arabians were...
Involved at all.
Yeah.
Even though 19 of the hijackers, etc. Yeah. Yeah, so Candace says, quote, "To be clear, the belief that white people are to assume all responsibility for Black America's shortcomings is a form of white power. One must believe in Black inferiority to accept the thesis that Black America is not responsible for any of its own shortcomings in a free society. Conservatives believe neither in white power nor Black inferiority, which is why we routinely reject the narrative that the white man is to blame for all our ills. And yet, Candace has spent the majority of this book, to this point, calling out white Americans. I'd like to point out that the civil rights legislation and all of the supplemental legislation that came after it was due to mostly white people not getting the fucking point that everyone should be treated equally. Candace failing to mention why LBJ felt the need to say what he said to a bunch of new graduate students, given that she herself has said on her show that withholding truth is a lie, says enough about this section of the book for now. Next week, we'll be covering her thoughts on the, quote, negative results of affirmative action, which should be a real fucking hoot.
Mm-hmm. Also,
Uh-huh.
correct me if I'm wrong, the poll tax thing.
Yeah.
If I was understanding that correctly, that was the government saying no to a tax?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the government saying no.
I thought she'd be on board with that.
Right.
Didn't she hate taxes?
Yeah, see, I didn't even think about that. Good catch. I did not think about that. Yeah. Yeah. You would think that, right? Yeah. But she doesn't even mention it. Poll taxes, voter suppression, none of that shit ever comes up. Ever.
Well, I mean, she doesn't vote. At least not in the last two runs.
Yeah,
but
she said she's going to vote this time around.
yeah, she said that last time around, didn't she?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't know, but I think we're going to cover that eventually
Yeah.
because she has said on record that she didn't vote in the last two elections. But we don't know what she said on our show yet. I don't know yet. I haven't
True.
listened to those
True that.
episodes because there's fucking 500 of them.
Yeah.
We're going to get there. That's going to be a journey
You know-
because we know where she is. But this is kind of, us starting with Blackout is kind of perfect because we can go from Blackout into her Candace Owens show from
Yeah.
the Daily Wire. We'll get to do that. And, we get to take that journey because I don't know what's there. I know a little bit based on the near the end is when I tuned in here and there to her show. But I don't know what all is there. I know I downloaded all of it, but I don't know.
See, you're approaching this with the mindset of a D&D wizard talking to a sorcerer.
Okay.
Sorry, no. Sorcerer talking to a wizard, just going, I know that I can do magic, but I don't know how it fucking works. So we get to find out what the fuck happens.
I mean, kind of. It's really more of an engineering thing because I have to research every little bit.
Yeah.
I have to research so much of every little bit. That is part of the fun and the infuriation of dealing with someone like her. Is because I have to listen and go, hold up, what? And then I'll usually have to replay a clip back a few times to make sure I heard it right.
Yeah.
To make sure that, and even if I've heard something that sounds off the wall, crazy or stupid, I have to go look it up. Sometimes I'm surprised when she's actually correct.
Yeah.
And I tend to give credit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's 1 out of 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so rare. It's so rare that I'm actually disappointed, but also a little relieved when it happens because if I realize she's actually right about something, I don't have to go further.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to dig further.
Yeah.
And most of the time, she's going to undo that one good deed with the next 10 fucking lies.
Yeah.
But I try to always approach it as see, when I was a kid, I wasn't one of those guys who would necessarily remember lines from movies.
Mm-hmm.
And even today, I'll watch something the second or third time if I give it that much. I'll know what's coming, but I'll still genuinely be shocked because I know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
But there are things that I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen The Matrix hundreds of times. To hear these people keep bringing it up pisses me off because I'm always you probably only watched it once.
Yeah.
I have seen it so many times, and there are lines that are quotable from that movie, but I genuinely love the story.
Yeah.
Same thing with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. I love the series. And anytime that I reread it, I'm always shocked and laugh, and because there's things that I forgot that are brilliant, because there's so much other brilliant shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try. I've never striven. I don't think that's the word. I've never tried to be one of those people that's just gonna quote an entire movie. If I remember a movie quote, it's because it's stuck out. Otherwise, I remember the story. I remember what was done.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I still like going in and watching something.
Yeah.
A second or third time. But there's so much new content these days. I just started watching Severance.
Yeah.
Last night.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
So good. 2 episodes in, it's so good. And I look forward to finishing the first season eventually.
Pete's sake, and I know it's not news, so fuck you, Star Wars fans. I'm one too.
Yeah.
You understand. I've consumed so much Star Wars information. I played in the fucking tabletop role-playing game for it.
Right.
And I sat down, and it honestly is the only handbook that I've actually sat down and read through.
Yeah.
I've tried to get through Pathfinder, and I can't quite. I've tried to get through Starfinder, and I'm just you're talking too much.
It's dense. It's dense material.
I read the handbook, and I'm just oh shit, all of these different kinds of weaves that I can have put in my clothes can do all of these different things.
Yeah.
And it's all these complex rules that not even the DM remembered.
Right.
And he's is this what it feels like to play D&D with me?
Yeah.
It's yes. But, I've gone into that so much, and I've just now gotten around to watching the Clone Wars series with my friend, and that's about that. That's where I'm at right now with my Star Wars intake.
Right.
I haven't even gotten to the new shit.
I heard they canceled. Like I heard that Acolyte got canceled.
Did it?
I don't know if they did the whole run of the episodes. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get there.
Eventually. From what I was told, it's got the same 3 beat of the Star Wars shows, which is 1's okay, 2 is kind of like 3. All right, you brought it back.
Right. Yeah, we're all in on 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they don't have you by 5, they'll bring the Mandalorian in.
Right. Man, I liked Boba Fett.
I loved Boba Fett.
What a good series.
Like, I loved it before Mando was involved, but it was...
No, my favorite,
great.
like, it was cool to see Mando and, Baby Yoda, fuck y'all.
Yeah.
It was cool to see Mando and Baby Yoda in there, but no, what got me, the thing that really sold me on that show was Danny Trejo as the Rancor Wrangler.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard, and I was so in. It's funny, too, because Trejo, like, we met him at the Twin Cities Con.
Yeah, we did.
He's such a cool guy. But he, man, he's shorter than I thought he'd be.
Yeah.
We've mentioned that before, but, like, y'all don't understand. Because, like, seeing him on programs, he always looks like a big dude.
Yeah.
He's not.
No.
There's a lot of camera fuckery going on with that man, and it's to his benefit.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you see Danny Trejo and you're not prepared to see Danny Trejo, you might not realize you're looking at Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
They do a lot of good work on him, but he's a very cool guy.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
Still
like definitely everybody. I think everybody we met there was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I gotta say that he, except for that one shop vendor, that one guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah, I mean celebrities.
But, oh yeah.
The VIPs were fine.
Yeah, the VIPs were great.
Yeah, the guests were all fine. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing about Danny Trejo is just like how nice he is of a guy.
Oh, he's so good.
My brain goes, you are a... You might not be a cold-hearted killer anymore, but you are a murderer at one point for a fucking gang, right. My guy.
Yeah, you were in prison.
And now I'm buying your book that has non-alcoholic drinks in the back of it. Like, what... Why am I... Yeah. Why is there an exchange of money going on? What?
No, what was funny was there must have been 3 people that asked him whether he was going to open up a Trejo's Tacos in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Like, I would understand, like, I understood the first person asking.
Yeah.
Getting a crowd reaction. Okay. By the time we're at number 3, it's like, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
He's already given an explanation. Stop trying to do this. He doesn't control that. There are people.
I think the second person was probably at least helpful in the regards they were like, there is a nice spot, in downtown.
Yeah, when they were like, you could go right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, we have an amazing taco place that we talked about the last time.
Oh yeah, Taco Teresa's.
Yeah. That, like, if Trejo opened one up, it'd be great, but this is a packed area.
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of good taco shops.
Oh yeah.
In Minneapolis.
I mean, shit, there's one place out in St. Louis Park that's literally called Taco Shop.
Taco Shop. Yeah, they advertise on the outside, street tacos, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you went there before. Was it like the corn tortillas? Did you have a flour one?
So, I'd actually gotten it. My boss was getting it, and so I just was like, here's $8. Yeah. And what happened was I got the street taco, and then I got the American street taco.
Okay.
The street taco was a corn tortilla.
Yeah.
The American street taco was a flour tortilla.
See, that's how
What's funny is they both came with a grilled jalapeno, like just a whole fucking jalapeno.
Wow.
Just right on there. And I was like looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I got my meats here. I got a little bit of sauce or something, some lettuce. Mm-hmm. Why do I have a massive grilled fucking jalapeno?
I guess they just do that.
And I was like, maybe it's just a thick serrano. And I took a bite out of it, and I was like, oh no, that's a fucking jalapeno.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I like look at my boss, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And she just put it in there and fold it up. And I was like,
yeah,
fuck it, all right.
Yeah. Well, like, that's how Taco Teresa's is too. The American or the American taco there is a flour tortilla.
Yeah.
But honestly, after having their quesadilla that comes with the corn tacos, I'm fine. I'm good.
Fuck.
They know what they're doing.
God, I didn't even dip it into the sauce thing that they gave us. first for my first bite. I just took a bite out of it. I couldn't even tell it was fucking corn tortilla.
No, it's so good.
Yeah. Like
They
there
know
was
what they're
there was
doing.
no sharpness or anything like I
No.
normally get with corn tortilla.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect, yeah. Well,
Off of the topic of good food.
yeah. Here we go with the Candace Show. Episode 44, JoJo Siwa, or something. Candace starts this show off by telling us that she is in Europe. Spoiler alert, it comes out later that she's in Romania, and I have a feeling that will dominate this episode of our show. As I write this, it isn't clear why she's there, but I'm pretty sure she's there to either talk with Andrew Tate, or to talk with Andrew Tate. If that's the case, I would say that I'm sorry, but I have to listen to this shit, not only before y'all do, but also many, many times in order to cut the clips, so we all get to take the ride together. But I'm the grizzled tour guide that has seen this shit so often that I'm no longer fazed by the violence or wild breeding. Anyway, let's get this started with... Okay, sorry we had to pause there for a second, but we're back, and... So yeah, I'm no longer fazed by the violence or the wild breeding of all the animals. Anyway, let's get this started with...
Alright everybody, I'm still coming at you from Europe. Very sad news, by the way. I recently found out that I'm never going to achieve my life goal of going on JoJo Siwa's podcast. Remember JoJo Siwa from Dance Moms? Well, she's recently come right out and said that she's got a list of 5 people who she will never host on her podcast, and I'm on it. Take a listen.
5 people that I will not be having on JoJo Siwa now. Candace Owens. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Her and I do not fuck with each other.
Well, that's news to me. I'm deeply upset. You're probably wondering, Candace, was it really on your life goals list to be hosted by JoJo Siwa? No, but I still have some thoughts on what she has said about me, and she said a little bit more. I'll tell you them in a second, but first, guys, obviously we have to talk about all of this conservative infighting. Please do not shoot the messenger. I feel like every time I talk about the MAGA campaign and what it's maybe doing wrong, I am messenger that gets shot. Oh well, we've got to be honest about it because, like I said, there is some serious infighting going on, and they're terming it the Groyper Wars. Let's talk about it. That's what's coming up on Candace.
Okay, so for those of you unaware, JoJo Siwa is a performer that was on the show Dance Moms as a child, and she quickly spun off into her own brand. She's been a public performer since she was a teenager, and I have no issues with her. That all said, Candace says some pretty gross shit later in this episode, using selected comments from a YouTube video about JoJo saying that she wouldn't host Candace on her podcast. It's another celebrity beef, and I'm only mentioning it for the context of this show, and unless something real comes of it, I see no reason to pursue it further. If you want to engage with it, fucking go for it. But I don't care about it. After her intro music, Candace moves on to some actual meat.
So I'm overseas in Europe, periodically checking in to see what's going on in the American political world, and I was pretty shocked when I saw Groyper War trending on Twitter, literally overseas here in Europe. That's how big of a trend it was, and I was shocked by it because obviously I discussed the fact that you have these anonymous accounts which feature a frog, like Pepe the Frog is what is featured on them, and essentially they have amassed independently tons of followers across the internet, and the movement is led by Nick Fuentes, and apparently, according to this trend on Twitter, Nick Fuentes has declared war on the MAGA campaign, and people are writing about it all over, what's actually going on. Well, I will allow you to hear what exactly Nick Fuentes said in his declaration of MAGA war. Is that what we're calling it? Take a listen.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. But from the top, I feel like we mentioned it before, or maybe I meant to, but the Groypers are not using Pepe the Frog. They are using their own bastardized version of Pepe called Groyper.
It's almost as if it's in their name to be called Groypers, to use something called Groyper.
Yeah.
And not Pepe the Frog, which was its own controversial thing, apparently.
Yeah. Well, it's like knowing the difference between the Union Jack of Britain and the fucking Confederate flag. Also, further proof to the statement that Nazis ruin everything. So what follows next is about 2 minutes of Nick Fuentes, associate of Klansman David Duke, outspoken white supremacist, personal friend of Ye, and someone whom Candace refuses to disavow, while at the same time saying that she agrees with him on a great many things. There are several spots in this clip that are soundless for a couple of seconds at a time. That's the original audio, nothing was cut. Anyway, here's Republican Nick Fuentes, everybody.
Dare I say it? I am declaring a new Groyper war against the Trump campaign until we can figure out what the hell is going on. I'm declaring a new Groyper war. You have alienated us. You have ignored us. You don't listen to our concerns. We have been left behind. The Trump movement and the GOP have moved on without us. It serves Israel and corporations and immigrants, but it doesn't serve Native Americans. What about Native Americans? What about Americans? What about young...
Just going to pause here. By Native Americans, he's not referring to the Native Americans that the rest of the world sees as natives. He is referring to people that are born here. Anyway, here's more.
White men. And
See?
others too. But what about us? Charlie Kirk is to the right of Trump on immigration? That's unacceptable. So I think it's time for another Groyper war. We're bigger, better, stronger than ever. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Rumble. This is a big live stream every night. We have allies, so I think it's time to up the ante a little bit. Joker 2 is premiering in October. Joker 2, 5-year anniversary. The show is back. We're opening the chest. I think it's time for Groyper War 2. And this time, we're going all out. Justice once. And we will bring the energy. It's just a question of whether they want to get on board or get out of the way. That's the question. But we will bring, the Groypers will bring the energy. Memes, edits, replies, trolls. Get with us or get the fuck out of the way. Groyper War 2 coming soon.
What the fuck was that?
I'm not sure where he uploaded that to,
When,
but that's what she played on her show.
what it, like the I couldn't tell if he was intoxicated, if it was a bad script, if he was just
No,
doing something candid off the top of his head.
That's generally what he does. Yeah. I don't think he actually scripts anything out.
I run
Yeah.
D&D sessions with more comprehension.
Yeah.
Without script and shit.
My favorite thing there is we're bringing the energy, memes, replies. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay.
What?
All right, you weenie.
Also, what was the mention of Joker 2? Why Joker 2?
Oh, they glommed onto the whole Joker. Like they glommed onto Joker when it came out as like, yeah, it's a whole stupid thing that I hope we don't have to cover that much.
I really enjoy the movie.
Yeah, no, I love Joker, and I want to see Joker too. And I mean, fuck these dudes. Like they are like what's funny is they are the kind of people that movie was designed to say, hey, these kinds of people need help. They're kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like they instead looked at it in the...
I think they looked
in the
at
light.
it as like an instruction manual.
Yeah. Oh, squish one's in.
Oh, Kitty. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, the...
She hasn't been in for a session in a long time.
Come on.
Oh, come on, you silly cat. Yep, there she is. What? Oh, do you know if they got fed?
I believe they did.
Okay, she's just being a cat.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Anyway, here, pass me the cat.
Here you go.
This is all good audio. It's great.
Yeah.
Hello, Kitty. Sit with your people for a minute. There you go. All right. So, back into this. So, Fuentes wanting to fracture that party for his own interests is nothing new. That's actually on brand for him. But as we mentioned in the last episode, Nick Fuentes held a protest of a recent Turning Point USA event when he was denied access, and the big name helping him at the protest was former unrepentant Klan leader David Duke. Turning Point USA is run by the man he mentioned in the clip, Charlie Kirk, who is still a good friend of Candace and still allows her stupid Blexit platform to exist. Nazis do ruin everything, but watching these assorted groups fight makes me want to wear a hoodie in reverse and use the hoodie to hold my popcorn while I watch these human-sized kaiju wail on each other. So Candace is now going to explain Groyper War 1.
Okay, so this video, or this clip of a longer episode on Nick Fuentes' show, sent the media into a tizzy. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with what the first Groyper War was about, essentially, you had a bunch of young kids, I would probably say between the ages of 18 and 23, who were showing up on college campuses and essentially calling out people that they believed were neocons, essentially people that were rhinos pretending to care about American interests, but effectively having sold themselves out to some broader cause. Let's call it the military-industrial complex, or as one example, I distinctly recall them showing up to a Turning Point event and saying, oh, hey, Charlie Kirk, you say that you are fighting for Christianity. Well, why are you paying people like Dave Rubin, who is a gay married man, to come speak at your events? And really kind of putting people's feet to the fire on these issues in a way that was sometimes uncomfortable. But I thought, and I remember going through this with Charlie, that actually we have to be able to answer those questions. Like, if we're going to be a part of a movement and we say that we are on the right, then we need to not be scared when our ideas are challenged. Now, this sort of led to a media backlash, and all of the Groypers were essentially put into a pile and termed white supremacists. And I always thought that that was inaccurate and it was wrong, because I was on those college campuses and I actually thought that some of the questions they were asking were meaningful. Like, if we do say that we are conservatives and we are Christians, why are we platforming so many gay married people? I think it's a fair question that we have to be prepared to answer. Now, there might be an answer to that. Some people may say, oh, well, you can be gay married and be a Republican, which, by the way, I think you can be gay married and be a Republican, because you're basically saying, well, I align with the Republican Party maybe on the economics, and I'm putting the social aspects, I'm ranking the social aspects lower on my scale of who I would vote for. I don't really care about what they think about gay marriage. I care more about what they're going to do for taxes and the economy. But if you're going to present yourself as a Christian, if Christianity is going to be the thing that you're, hey, we want to preserve Christianity, and I'm a Christian Republican, then it gets a little bit more complicated. Anyways, so that was, I guess, considered the first Groyper War. Now we're at the second Groyper War, but these concerns that they're bringing up, I would not dismiss these as the concerns of some fringe alt-right white supremacist group, because the reality is, this is going to upset a lot of people. I want to be very clear. I am voting for Trump because he is the better candidate between him and Kamala Harris and the coup that was just established on the left, and my concerns about what they will do if they actually get into power. There is no doubt in my mind that Trump is the better candidate. But I cannot say that statement without also being honest about the fact that something feels a little different right now. A few weeks ago, Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt. It was very clear to me, and I think to the entire world, that he was going to win the election because he emerged as a leader.
Yeah, so what I heard in there was Candace running cover once again for Nick Fuentes. Not so much with the story regarding Charlie Kirk, but in the overall schema. I'd like to note that Fuentes is, of course, a hypocrite, and he has a locals.com account, which is alt-right Patreon, and we've mentioned them before, but Fuentes has 59 followers over there last time I checked. This is slightly notable because that service was started by Dave Rubin.
Here's something. So, in her own words,
Yeah.
you can be a gay married man and be a Republican.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to be Christian, you can't be a gay married man?
I don't know.
And what about lesbians?
Well,
That's always a question I want to ask somebody like this. It's the whole, no man can lay with another man.
No, the true believers like Candace don't like lesbians either. Here's the funny thing, though. Dave Rubin started Locals, where Candace makes a fuck ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to really walk a thin line. So Dave Rubin was the gay married conservative that he was having issues with during his stupid Groyper War 1. Dave Rubin is also Jewish.
Ah. So he's a Jewish gay married Republican?
Yeah, Jewish gay married conservative.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. That runs a crowdfunding website for these two ding-dongs, and Russell Brand and several others. So, yeah. So anyone paying for Locals.com credits to pass along to Nick Fuentes as a form of support is paying real money. Buying those credits, they're paying real money to a gay married Jewish businessman to pass it along via fake money to a raging homophobic anti-Jewish white supremacist. And Candace is in the middle of it all. Because both men are seen as friends to her. Naturally, she moves along quickly, quick as she can, to the Trump stuff, talking about the attempted shooting and the loss of energy in the campaign.
His response and in his speeches thereafter, in the way that he communicated with the crowd, it just seemed so obvious that in order to defeat the deep state, who I believe was behind this assassination attempt, that we needed to elect Trump. But things have changed in just a very short time. The energy of the MAGA campaign feels very different. Now, at first I was owing that to the fact that there has to be some reasonable trepidation. You don't just survive an assassination attempt and just keep going. You don't come out of that not being a fundamentally changed person. And I think, by the way, for the better, really recognizing how precious life is, maybe perhaps being further committed to Christian principles as a leader. You're going to be changed having survived an assassination attempt. But there is something else that seems to have happened where I'm just not sure who is driving the MAGA bus anymore, okay? And I want to be clear, again, that these are not, just because you're hearing these concerns from Nick Fuentes does not mean that Nick Fuentes is the only person that feels this way. I'll give you just another example. Ashley St. Clair, she's somebody that I follow on Twitter. I think she's very funny. She tweeted this: MAGA energy is very strange lately. Trump campaign needs a shakeup. I don't think anybody is accusing Ashley St. Clair of being a Groyper. In fact, she's usually at war a lot of the times with the Groypers, but she's sensing the exact same thing. I am not a Groyper. I am sensing the exact same thing. And so when I answered Ashley, when I saw this tweet, I responded to her on Twitter, and I said, it reminds me, this moment kind of reminds me of a conversation that I had with Vivek Ramaswamy. I think Trump should have picked Vivek Ramaswamy as his VP. I felt very strongly about Vivek Ramaswamy and his general energy and his general philosophy. But he and I were discussing what it was that failed about the Ron DeSantis campaign. What was it about the Ron DeSantis campaign that, despite the fact that all of the donors lined up and all of the press lined up, and his wife was suddenly emerging as Jackie O in the way that she was dressing, and it seemed so self-evident that, of course, he could just take on Donald Trump and win. Despite all of that, the press, the money, the glamour, his campaign failed. And Vivek Ramaswamy said to me, he said, because sometimes when you're a startup, having too much money can actually hurt you. And that's actually very wise. It's a very wise perspective. It's a very wise reflection of what happened with his.
Yeah, so it's been better said by more connected people, but the Trump energy has lost its fuel since Biden dropped out, because they were banking on riding it hard that Biden was too old and possibly mentally compromised to be the chief executive of the country anymore. The Harris campaign has had energy from day one, has gotten a record-breaking amount of money from normal people and large donors, and a lot of people have been woken up to what the GOP would do during another Trump term. It doesn't help that Trump is out there saying things to people like, vote once, just one more time for me, and you'll never have to vote again. He said that at a church.
How do we like to say it, Squish? How do we like to say it, Squish? Back in the fatherland. Ah, yes, mein Führer.
Yeah. Don't make my cat sick, Heil. So, It doesn't help that Trump is out there saying things, people like just vote once. That's dictator words. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of Republicans for Harris groups forming with well-known and lesser-known people in that party signing on because the alternative is so much worse.
I've run into people from my old job, just old folks from that one.
Yeah.
I've run into them, and I know that they're all like, they were all hard right-wingers.
Yeah, hard MAGA, yeah.
Yeah. And a couple of them were wearing their MAGA hats with a little Harris pin in the A.
That's
and
great.
I'm just like, wow, y'all switched sides real fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, furthermore to what she was saying, though, Meatball Ron was never smooth or suave.
I didn't even know that. Oh wait, Ron DeSantis, our old governor.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. He was even like in the running.
Yeah, he was in the running. Yeah, he was never smooth or suave. He was simply well-financed in Florida. But when you try to take amateur hour, along with all of his fucked up policies and practices beyond the hellscape of Florida, you find that messaging doesn't really resonate with people. I personally believe that Trump didn't pick Vivek for his VP choice because of racism, and the fact that Vivek wanted the presidential seat, same as DeSantis. But Vivek was more of a suck-up. At least DeSantis made a show of pushing back on Trump a little bit. Trump naturally went with a toady that had extreme dark money behind him instead, because that toady wasn't trying to get the big seat. It's really not hard to put it together. Yeah.
Vivek, it's...
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Here's the thing about Vivek, though, that... Do you remember Elder Scrolls in Morrowind?
Yeah.
One of the tribunal members, his name is Vivek.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Mostly because I didn't play Morrowind. Like, it's going to cost me nerd cred, but I don't care. I was working like 3 jobs at a time when Morrowind was hot, and I did not play that game much at all. Mm-hmm. And then, I think the most in Morrowind digitally that I've ever been was in ESO, Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
And even then, it was never my favorite spot.
No.
Oh, wait. There was also the Morrowind portion in, the Skyrim DLC.
It was the Solstein Island, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I still, I didn't really, I never cared for it that much. Yeah. I didn't care for the aesthetic, I didn't care for any of it. Mm-hmm. That was to me the most annoying part of having to just play in that world. I really didn't care for it all that much. I loved Skyrim itself. I loved the mountains and all that shit.
I liked the spells, but that was about it.
Yeah, well, moving on. Next clip.
Campaign. And it actually says a lot about what was successful in 2015 when Donald Trump was running. And the entire mainstream media apparatus was against him. They said there's no way he's going to win. And maybe deep down, Trump also thought there's no way I'm going to win. Nobody was giving him any money. No one cared what he had to say. He was getting no airtime. All of the mainstream media pundits hated him, right? Even the people that were supposed to be nice to him traditionally, like the conservative media, Fox News, who could forget the infamous, Megyn Kelly back forth that he had with her.
Yeah, okay. Calm the fuck down, Candace. Trump did spend $66 million of his own money on his campaign, but he also took donations from small donors, like mom and pops, super PAC funds, and a couple of wealthy investors. There are rumors regarding how he raised some funds, but there are no facts yet, so I won't repeat those here. But Trump also got a ton of free coverage from the press, so he didn't have to advertise as much as his primary opponents, or as much as Hillary, who needed to run ads.
Everyone was lying about everything that he said. They were in lockstep and agreeing that it couldn't be Trump, right? And so Trump had to get creative. And in his creativity, he decided to just commit himself to the truth. Donald Trump was just saying what was on the minds of all Americans. He was not playing politics because politics had no interest in Donald Trump. So he said exactly what it was that we wanted to hear. He called them liars.
Yeah, this is true. He did say what people wanted to hear. Mostly because he got it from focus groups a year before he announced his run for president. Whether or not he ever believed any of it was possible, such as making Mexico pay for a wall and the other garbage he put out there, he was acting on data he memorized from those focus groups.
And I think as we learned after his assassination attempt, there was never more money that was given to the Trump campaign. I think in the next days, in the preceding week, they raised more money than they had ever raised. But the truth is, the reality is that when you take money, what are you taking money for, right? There's kind of an implicit agreement. The people who are giving you the money have some interest that they want perhaps you to protect, some interest that they want you to share, some perspectives that they're expecting you to have if they're writing you a big check. I mean, he had, I think, one of the wealthiest people in America, the Adelson or the Adelson family. They effectively own Las Vegas. I think the wife cut him a $100 million check. And it's been understood that that check came with a little bit of nudging that, well, if you win, I kind of want you to agree to us annexing Gaza, Israel annexing the West Bank, pardon. And the press wrote about that, and it's a little blip. And maybe Trump doesn't agree with that. I'm not saying that he's done that deal or that he holds that perspective, but I am saying that it runs counter to everything that he pledged to people in 2015. I'm going to end wars. I don't want any more wars. I'm going to bring the troops home. I'm tired of them taking your tax dollars to fight endless wars overseas. He seems to be singing a different tune today. We're hearing J.D. Vance. He's talking about war with Iran. Nobody wants more war in the Middle East or anywhere else. Ukraine, Russia. We just want to place a pause on never-ending wars. And the
So yes, some of this is true. Adelson did pledge to give Trump $100 million through a super PAC, and she openly does want Gaza to belong entirely to Israel. With that said, no one is pushing for America to send troops there. They just want us to send guns and stay out of the way while they do the genocide and expulsion. It's not better, but it's not boots on the ground. As for Vance pushing for war with Iran, I could find no mention of that anywhere. Candace goes on for the next several minutes like this, coming up with ideas about what might be going on in the Trump campaign and why he's getting chummy with people that said they would never support him many years ago, and it's all kind of boring, so we're skipping it. Because Candace has a new sponsor. Another spoke in the grift wheel with...
Before we get into that, it honestly sounds like she's lost faith in her Orange Emperor. Like, completely. She sounds like...
She sounds shaken.
She sounds shaken, and like she is trying to make sense of... Well, it can't be him. Maybe it's the people he's surrounding himself with nowadays. Like, she's slowly coming to a realization that he wasn't the ideal candidate after all. Yeah. Like, that's what it seems like.
It does seem that way. You're right. And this is something that way back when I used to listen to Knowledge Fight regularly, Alex Jones, during, I think it was after the Trump years, he was talking about Trump and how he didn't want to support him again, and he was like, "This guy never looked out for us," and he, like he was getting so close to it. He was so close to publicly disavowing Trump on his show. He was so fucking close, and he pulled back at the last second.
Yeah, well, that's what it sounded like she was talking to, and there was like getting so close to going, he doesn't want to support us like he did in 2015.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, like, she's right on that
right
cusp.
Right on the edge of falling over. Yeah. So here we go.
Those are my thoughts on that topic. All right, guys, I have to tell you about Native Path because finding an honest doctor who isn't following in the footsteps of Big Pharma feels impossible. I've been telling you guys this forever. I am so done with Big Pharma. And that's the reason why millions of men and women have turned to Native Path's vast selection of high-quality nutrition products. Native Path was created by a Texas doctor of physical therapy who discovered how poor nutrition was linked to many of the health issues his patients were dealing with on a daily basis. Their original collagen peptides included a unique protein that naturally declines with age and is proven to significantly increase bone strength and soothe joint pain. It minimizes wrinkles and cellulite, enhances hair follicle thickness, and even reverses nail damage, with users reporting results in as little as 2 weeks. As a partner of the show, Native Path is offering my listeners up to 45% off his bone, joint, and ligament restoring formula at nativepath.sale/Candace. The discount will be auto-applied. Native Path has thousands of 5-star reviews and over 4 million jars sold. Every order comes with 365-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk to try it out. So try it today. Listeners can visit nativepath.sale/Candace to get up to 45% off while supplies last. Again, that's nativepath.sale/Candace.
Okay.
I really... It's going to be a little bit fucked up.
Yeah. Okay.
I really wish I had a friend that was an amputee in the arm region, so that way I could get a product like this, make a YouTube video, and just smear it on there. Smear it good and thick, and just go, it doesn't work.
Oh no, you have no idea where this is going.
Oh god damn
I
it.
have no idea where this is going.
Why is this getting worse?
Have you not been here for the last 16 episodes?
I have, but why does it get worse? Can't it get better?
No, it can't. Well, here's what's funny. Now, I have not looked into this myself, but I was listening to one of her more recent episodes earlier today, and that's going to become relevant later. But anyway, I was listening to one of her more recent episodes earlier today, and she gave the same Native Path read, but she said nativepath.sale/Owens. And then, like, near the end of the read, she said nativepath.sale/Candace. So I don't know if there are two separate sites. I didn't look into it, and I feel really weird about that now. But as far as Native Path is concerned, I checked them out, and they have a very long web page explaining the product. The link she gave seems to be redirected upon landing to a generic sales page, which explains the product, but what I find dumb about the entire sales pitch is actually how it starts. I don't know if y'all heard this, but, this guy, a DPT, a physical therapy doctor, discovered shockingly that poor health was due mostly to a poor diet? I've never spent a day in med school, but I have a feeling that's something you just know.
Well, I mean, he's a physical therapist.
I'm gonna say that again. He discovered that poor health was due mostly to a poor diet.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, alert the Nobel Committee and call the Vatican because we've got the rare scientist fucking saint going on here. Like, fuck off with that shit. Candace spends the next 7 minutes talking about JoJo Siwa and how she recently said that she would never do anything with Candace, and Candace kind of gets back at her by reading comments from that video directed at JoJo Siwa in favor of Candace. It's all gross and stupid, and all I have to say is good for JoJo Siwa. I hope her career continues to go well. Moving on, Candace gives her take on Olympic gymnastics, and since it's opinions mixed with the country she's trying to suck up to, in this case Romania, for reasons that will soon become clear, I'm not going to play it. The rest of the next few minutes are just Candace reading comments regarding the Dave Smith conversation from our episode 16, which are fleeting and beneath us. We have so much more shit to cover. Yeah.
Go ahead and continue. It's just with the title of the episode being. Master-Tate-ing.
Yeah.
Candace Master-Tate-ing. I'm going to assume it's not sucking up to Romania. It's sucking on Romania.
A little bit.
Okay.
Oh, except that, like.
Well, in a good Christian way.
No. Oh my God, no. This is going to be a roller coaster. This is a roller coaster.
Okay.
So, let's get into the Tristan Tate interview.
All right, guys, so I have a treat for you. While we are still in the aftermath of the Kanye interview, holding that in the vault, revealing it to the world, and then the world sort of realizing that everything that we were told about Kanye 2 years ago, that I'm having a mental breakdown, that he was crazy, that he was angry, was a carefully constructed lie. The media, of course, trying to bury him with headlines because they didn't want you to hear what he was actually saying. And then when you actually heard what he had to say, thanks to this vault interview, you went, oh, that's really interesting, actually. He's making some very sound points. Here's a reality that you've probably come to if you've been watching this podcast. Virtually every person in the media that is being attacked the hardest, there is a reason that they are being attacked. There is a truth that the media is trying to obscure. And so now I think it's my duty to speak to the most canceled, quote unquote, canceled people that are out there to figure out why it is the media hates them so much. And who's hated more than the Tate Brothers? I really don't think there is anyone that is arguably hated more than the Tate Brothers. I think they rank higher than Ye does.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I didn't know who Andrew Tate was until I heard about him on Behind the Bastards. I thought I'd never hear much about him again, but then Candace started giving him airtime on her old show. I groaned, but I moved on. Then she started quoting him and playing his stupid-ass takes on her new show. I groaned. Then she went to Romania, and I'm sorry everyone, but you're going to hear both Tates in this episode. First, the lesser-known but equally douchey Tristan for this section. Back to the subject, though. I don't think these guys are the most hated or canceled or whatever men. Because most people I've spoken with don't know who the fuck they are. I certainly wish I didn't have to know, but here I am anyway, right? Anyway, the last I'll say on this statement by Candace before we move on is that Ye, for all his flaws and public-ass hattery, has actually made things with mass appeal. He has actually sold out stadiums and was married to one of the most well-known women in the world for several years. If he retired today, he would still have hundreds of millions of dollars and millions of fans. If the Tate brothers go to prison where they belong, it wouldn't be the same. Anyway, there will be large portions of both interviews that we skip, because it's usually either crap we've heard before or ads we've heard. Other large skippable sections will be if Candace and the interview subject are just stroking each other off verbally. I have to say, of the two, Tristan is less annoying to listen to when he speaks.
I've never heard Tristan.
So I'm going to have a conversation with both of them today. First and foremost, we are going to speak with Tristan Tate. Welcome to the Candace podcast.
Welcome. I'm very happy to be here, and this is the least pregnant I've ever seen Reef, so congratulations on the new arrival.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
It's always a new arrival. The new arrival, I'm either pregnant, still pregnant, pregnant again, so this is just the rare 8 months.
Doing your job, repopulating the earth. I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
So I've been wanting to speak to you for a very long time. Obviously, when I went out to Romania the first time, and I interviewed just Andrew, but then I had such a remarkable conversation with you, and I realized that, oh gosh, I should have definitely interviewed Tristan because there's so much that he has to say. You're quite incredibly well read, first and foremost, but I want to start with just speaking about traditional masculinity. And there was this one moment that you were describing to me, really the circumstances of what it took for you to survive mentally when you and your brother were put into a prison and there were no charges against you.
No.
Can you describe, first and foremost, just remind us how long you were put into that cell, how big the cell was, and what the environment was like?
Okay, go ahead.
He sounds like he sounds like Diet Andrew Tate.
He kind of is. Yeah.
Like Andrew Tate has that annoying British cunty voice to him.
Yeah.
And Tristan sounds like that, but his balls haven't dropped yet.
Well, I don't know. I think he's slightly deeper, just slightly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and we will hear Andrew Tate.
Oh yeah.
I'll get to hear the distinct differences.
Oh yeah.
But he sounds like Diet Andrew Tate.
Honestly, I could deal with Diet Andrew Tate a lot better because he doesn't rely on catchphrases, at least in this interview.
Yeah.
He doesn't rely on catchphrases. I cut so much shit out of the Andrew Tate portion of this because I did not want our listeners to hear him say built different or any of his other bullshit too much.
See,
Some of it was unavoidable.
I prefer the alternative to built different. That is, nah, I ain't built different. I'm just built wrong.
Well, so, yeah, they weren't arrested for no reason whatsoever. That is bullshit. They were arrested on charges of human trafficking, rape, sexual assault, and forming an organized crime group with 2 other men. They are accused of using the boyfriend method to lure women to them, then using violence, intimidation, and taking the money of the women involved and turning them out as prostitutes, strippers, cam girls, and so on. These are credible charges brought on them by authorities in America, the UK, and Romania. They are expected to be extradited to the UK to stand trial after Romania is done with them. They are under strict rules and strict watch under house arrest until their trials conclude in Romania. I am saying all of this to remind listeners that these are not innocent men. They have said in their own words in other recorded interviews that they moved to Romania because they believed it would be easier to live as criminals there. But here on this show, having been caught and under trial, they are claiming to be innocent. Now that the boot is on their neck, they are appealing to the very people that should be glad they have been caught. Candace will spout off at every chance about crimes that have been made up against rich people she sees as elites. But then when actual crimes are being tried on men she likes, she defends them. I know her hypocrisy is nothing new, but I have to wonder if she is doing this for more than the attention it will generate.
Well, Romania has a very, I guess, smart way of dealing with their prison system. What they do is instead of investing money in the prison system, they eat all the money in fines for treating prisoners badly because it's cheaper than actually constructing new prisons. So every single prison here is built during the communist regime. None of them have been upgraded. None of them are nice at all. The cell was about 4 yards by 3 yards. I'll use yards because I know you're an American. I like to use meters, of course. But two sets of bunk beds, it's a tiny toilet in the corner. It's not a toilet, it's a hole in the ground, quite literally. And then there's a shower overhead that is either way too hot or way too cold. I was there for 92 days. And if I had known I'd be there for 92 days, it would have been a much easier task. However, every 2 to 3 weeks, I'd have a court hearing to see if I was there for longer, or if I was going to be released and put on house arrest. So I didn't know when I was going to get out, which was, I guess, the most mentally challenging part of it. But it got a lot easier towards the end when I was put in the same cell as my brother. And then my only role, my only job, my only focus was keeping Andrew mentally focused and keeping Andrew happy and making Andrew laugh. And I didn't even care about the fact that I was in jail because I am my brother's keeper. You know, it's good to have your brother's back. So, you know, if I woke up and he was depressed or he was sad or he was angry, I didn't care about my own mental state. It was how's Andrew doing, and that's all I really focused on.
So this is going to matter later in the Andrew interview. Now, he isn't wrong. Romanian prisons are known to suck terribly. And the EU Rights Commission has come down on them for being woefully undercoded, overcrowded. They are at 120% capacity.
They've surpassed it.
Yeah.
100% capacity.
Yeah, so like, you know, you have like 100 beds, 20 guys, an extra 20 guys per 100 beds. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this, right? They talk like they thought they'd do okay over there because Romania is supposed to be so corrupt and all this shit. Now, maybe they're jailing innocent people. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think these guys are fucking innocent.
No.
But I think if you have an overcrowded prison system in a country like that, maybe they have a lot of criminals they're catching. You know?
Yeah.
I know they have ethnic minorities. I know that racism is still a very real thing among even what would be looked at as like mostly Caucasian countries. Very aware of all that. Not going to downplay it whatsoever. Maybe the ethnic minorities are in those prisons for doing small infractions. I don't know. But
the fact that there's 120% capacity.
Yeah. Now, that's one reason I think the Tates were allowed to be under house arrest, since they probably also hired decent lawyers, because they're wealthy. They're stupid wealthy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But unfortunately, they make more money from their fucking stupidity.
Well, here's the next clip.
I think that it's interesting because I just like to assess culture where most people try to attack it. And of course, when you see a movement happening, especially if it's a populist right movement, people behind Trump, they just go, it's a bunch of white supremacists that are dusting off their Klansman cloaks. Of course. Now they see you and Andrew, it's like, oh, it's all of these misogynist boys who just hate women and want to grow up and rape them, and that's what's happening. And of course, that's so silly and it's so stupid. And I always want to claw back and really understand what it is that people are responding to. And what you're hitting upon, and I think it's kind of one of the most remarkable things about you and Andrew, is this brotherhood. That when you guys speak with each other, when you are together, it just feels like you're watching what it is, family.
Yeah.
And we have been so removed from that in society. The concept of loyalty, the concept of brotherhood, the concept of looking after your family member through everything, thick and thin. And you guys have definitely been through the thick, and you stand by each other. That when you tell that story of just like, I just suddenly wanted to make sure that Andrew was okay, and you're in this cell and you don't know when you're going to go out. I just think it's remarkable. I think it's people could never imagine what that challenge would be like to try to keep yourself sane while you are caught in this cell for how many hours? I mean, it's just, did they let you out in the play yard?
Play yard? Play yard? This is Romania, Candace. This very average hotel is the best hotel we have. You think the prisons have play yards? Everyone asks me that. How was the church? How was the gym? Did you get yard time? I'm like, yard time? No. You are in that room, and that is it. So I was escorted to and back from the courthouse in a armored police van, and that was it. You don't leave the room. You don't ever get a chance to breathe fresh air. First time.
So that will all be important later in the episode with Andy.
I'm sure they've been through the thick of it being in prison.
Oh, it's just wait for it. Here we go.
So the first day that you guys got out, I vividly remember the picture in the news and like the unkempt hair and like you guys are smiling and can you just tell me what that day was like? Just hearing the news. I guess, did you go to the courthouse first and then they let you go, or how did that go about, and what did you think, and how was sleeping in your own bed?
So this is the craziest thing. You have to understand that even the Romanian police officers and the Romanian prison guards knew that I was unjustly imprisoned. A lot of them, and I can't say their names because they get in trouble, but a lot of them, the high-level people in the prison would say to me, look, guys, I'm sorry you're here. This is just the way it is, And when I got the news that I was free, so you'd go to court and you'd wait for the phone call. Now Andrew was always hopeful of going home. Andrew, every single time that we were waiting for this phone call, which was 6 or 7 times over the period, Andrew would be like, oh, maybe we'll go home. What we can do, we can go home. I was just like, nope. It's a matrix attack. They're going to keep us in jail forever. We're going to be here years. And I just went to sleep. I ignored the news. So when the news came through, my lawyer told us we were going home. I literally banged on the prison door. And I shouted in Romanian, I'm going home. The words are Mergem acasă in Romanian. And everybody, the guards, the prisoners, everybody erupted in this massive cheer. Because everybody knew I shouldn't have been there in the first place. Everybody erupted in this massive, applause. It was, it was a very, very good feeling. And
yeah, so here we have more world building. This is something you see a lot on the alt-right. Performers saying that people in power, such as cops, guards, whoever, are telling them that they know the charges are bunk, but they have to do their job. And massive group support among peers. Now, for a man that only saw the inside of his cell, why would anyone on the floor have cared if he was going home? Certainly the other inmates and guards and whoever else. It is likely one lie among many, but it's worth pointing out the ease with which he will do this, and so will Andy, time and again. And Candace just sits there and allows it to happen because she isn't a journalist, but she is a shit reviewer.
I know why they'd be erupting in applause and cheers. Because now they don't have to listen to them anymore.
That would be about the only reason.
They couldn't touch them to beat them to near death, so they had to sit there and listen to the torture.
I mean, maybe, but they showed, I've seen pictures of the Romanian prison cells, and they don't have bars on the doors. It's a solid door.
Oh. Wow.
You get your food through a slot kind of thing.
Oh, well.
Yeah, if he was going from the courthouse to the cell, and the cell had a shower and a toilet, and they weren't getting any kind of yard time or anything,
nobody would have.
Yeah, like you said, there's no real thing there. There's no there for that. Yeah. So here's the next one.
I have a theory, which came from my buddy Dave Smith, that, part of the reason that you and your brother are being so attacked is because you represent a real threat to what you guys term the Matrix.
Yes.
They managed to enslave the majority of human civilization via either banking. People have bank debts, that they debts that are usually accrued because of education. They've enslaved their minds via the education system. And also, they've enslaved them because if it ever came down to it, the majority of people wouldn't be able to fight for their freedom, quite literally fight for their freedom. And you take a look at what you and your brother have built, and I had not even realized how successful Hustler University was. It's a full disruption to traditional education system that most kids can afford and don't need to go into six-figure debt for, because it's $49.99 for a course. And I actually hired someone not realizing they were a Hustler University graduate, and they've been an incredible employee.
Yes.
And this is a person from the wrong side of the tracks who now has an opportunity, and he's learning how to make money in this world, and he's not doing it because he has to first figure out how to pay all of these debts like I did with student loans.
Yeah.
And then
So, I'm sure you're probably about to get into what Hustler University is.
A little bit.
Like,
A little bit. Yeah.
Even if I didn't know, anything about the Tate Brothers, I don't think I'd hire anybody from Hustler University. Because Hustler University sounds like one of them websites that's print a degree,
Right. Well, to make matters weirder, there's a long-running porn magazine called Hustler. So, yeah, I mean, depending on how old your prospective boss is, they may be like, "There's a Hustler University. How long were you there?"
Here's my question: are you gonna suck at this job, or are you gonna suck at this job?
Right. What are your what did you study at Hustler University? Was Larry Flint your dean? I don't know how far this goes. So yeah, even though this is an interview with the Tates, this is a Candace Owens focused show. I hadn't heard her mention the student loans yet, so I went digging. In past statements, she has said that her student loan debt from University of Rhode Island was between $100K to $150K, depending on who she is speaking with at the time. The cost to be an out-of-state student there today is about $51K per year. She went there for 3 years, so a six-figure amount is possible, but only kinda. She went there in 2007 to 2010. That cost was actually much lower for her, at around $30K on average. She claimed that it was about $37,500 per year, but there may have been additional costs for her, or she might have factored interest into the final figure she told everybody else. Either way, she claims that there was an issue with student loans in her final year, and that's why she didn't finish school. As we pointed out previously, this sounds like a lie. Based on her current skill set, I am willing to say that my theory is that she was a terrible student, and this was a convenient reason, because she could have finished up her degree, which was supposed to be in journalism, any number of ways. She worked as an intern at Vogue, where it seems she was well liked. For that, I had to find a article that was written last year with someone who traveled with her to her studio, which was with the Daily Wire. The studio was on the outskirts of Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to read through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that writer actually went and found a lot of her old coworkers at Vogue.
Ah.
Yeah. She isn't kidding when she says that she was kind of about that hoe life back then in her 20s.
Yeah.
Some facts that I didn't put into the script, but they're in my head, so they'll probably make it into something in the future. But some facts from that article. Candace used to occasionally show up to work in a power suit of pants and a suit jacket, and her top was just a bra. Some days that was her attire.
Okay.
In an article that she wrote, which I'll dig through to find sometime, I'm sure, just as we go back through her past stuff to today, she claims to have faked orgasms over 6,000 times. So, I mean, that's... So, that's one reason why she's very much about people can change. I think it's because she's got a bit of a past, you know.
Yeah, and I think if she tried to ever, do the I've always been a solidly good Christian my whole life.
No,
somebody in her past would go, actually, Candace, you remember this picture?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's and that's one of the things that that came up in that. I was like, oh my God. I didn't have the time to read the full article, but like I said, y'all can search for it, or I'll link it in a future episode when I can get into it, because the Vogue writer, was welcomed onto her set. Like, she spent like a week around her.
Willingly?
Yeah, I guess for the assignment anyway.
I hope the paycheck was good.
I hope so too. I can't. That just sounds insufferable. But yeah, so yeah. Anyway, she worked as an intern at Vogue, where it seems she was well liked. But my working theory on why she left that position is that she wasn't a student anymore. And those jobs are typically only open to students. And here's the next clip.
You have these two brothers, and they're embodying the family, and they're speaking about traditional masculinity, like, I'll beat you in a fight.
Yeah.
Like, just that old school, like, I will beat you up in a fight. And that's not really allowed today. You can't disrupt how they're enslaving people without them essentially owning you. And people thinking that it's something new, but it's really the same thing that's old. And you guys truly are free and sit outside of the bounds of their control.
It's not just the ability to fight or the will to fight. I think what me and Andrew embody that a lot of people don't quite understand is, what would you fight for? A lot of people who maybe are trained, are smart, can shoot, can fight, they're not a threat because they don't have an ideology that they're willing to defend. And I think that when I say, I gave this example to your husband, who I love, by the way, quick shout out, pure bromance, I love that guy. I was talking to him earlier, and I said, I'm worried right now. I'm worried, genuinely. Not about these new charges and these cases. This doesn't scare me, but I'm worried they're going to hit Andrew with a charge for inciting riots. And I'm worried about how I'm going to get myself put in jail with him. I might just have to incite some riots myself if they charge him with this. I'm worried about how I can get into jail to be there with him. So it's not just the ability to fight and the ability to be masculine and to be a masculine man. It's giving people something to fight for. Your family, your ideology, your church, your religion. That's what they try and strip from everybody. Because a willingness to fight is far more scary than an ability to fight.
So there's a lot going on here. First off, him saying new charges almost threw me down a rabbit hole, but then I realized he was talking about Andy trying to incite a riot by screaming at Romanian men about how they should be rioting over what was going on at the Olympics with the opening ceremonies, which, as we covered previously, was very stupid because it wasn't mocking the Last Supper, it was playing on the work Feast of the Gods. Anyway, I can agree with him that someone willing to fight is often more of a problem than someone that can fight but doesn't. Like, I'm willing to fight this disinformation via this method, but I'm also willing to get physical if a situation calls for it. Thankfully, that has occurred rarely in my lifetime. But Tristan saying that he was worried as to what he would have to do to defend Andy or keep him sane in prison again is telling on Andy quite a bit. I don't doubt that prison is rough, but those concerns will not come up on Andy's interview. And if there was ever any doubt of what Tristan is about,
whether or not it puts me in jail or not. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm not a human trafficker. That doesn't make any sense.
And what's actually funny is that everything that they accuse people of doing is what they are. And this gets into, which I need to do a full episode on this, but they accused Michael Jackson of pedophilia because they are the pedophiles.
They are pedophiles.
Like the media is literally an ecosystem that was built to protect pedophiles.
Yes.
Right? And once you start realizing, like we said before we got live here, that Alex Jones was right. When he started speaking about the satanic worshipping elites that are all pedophiles, I remember first hearing Alex Jones being like, this man is like
insane.
On crack.
I was in my early 20s. And he's sitting there, super energetic as always, ranting about these satanic pedophiles and how they're drinking the blood of children. I was like, really? Like, they're just politicians. I mean, it's not that bad.
How could that be happening?
Turns out he was completely right about everything. And
everything.
And I feel like what Alex Jones knows, because here's the real scary part. tip of the iceberg, right? This is what Alex Jones knows, and this is what he's waking everyone up to. This is what we now understand, and we're trying to wake people up to. What don't we know yet? What are we going to discover in the next 10 years? What if the culture of the world changes, Trump gets in charge, a bunch of right-wing politicians take control of Europe as they should, and start digging into the files? What are we actually going to find out? That's the scary part.
Yep.
Yeah, this has been a popular saying among the alt-right for years, saying that Alex Jones was right, but they never really say what exactly he was right about. Anytime I've ever asked someone what kind of provable and factual thing Alex Jones was right about, I get silence. I think it's almost appropriate that the audio in this interview echoes a bit.
Yeah.
Here's the next one.
We don't know.
I don't
anything.
know. I don't
mean,
know.
the more that I learn about anything, I'm just like, the school system exists to make you stupid but convince you that you're smart.
Yes.
As they're going around the world deleting history, I think it's part of the reason why we keep plundering the Middle East is because they want no relics of history, because then it allows these Marxists, because that's who they are, to rewrite it. And the reality is that America got overtaken by Marxism. It happened in waves, like the 1848ers that
Yep.
came and established. Like, Pfizer family was in that. People who established kindergarten were in that. And then again in 1880, after they assassinated the Tsar in Russia,
Yeah, Nicholas II.
under the guise
Yeah.
of pogroms. This was the excuse. Oh, all of these people just have to be allowed into America unchecked. Okay, but a huge portion of those people were the people that overthrew him and were actually psychopathic.
Yep.
And then went on to mass murder Christians. And then a few of those people then established the Diamond District in America.
Yep.
Julius Armand, like Armand Hammer's family. Armand Hammer, the actor, is named Arm and Hammer for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it is known that his father was, or great, however many grandfathers, was considered Stalin and Lenin's favorite Jew, right? Which then kind of gets into the question of the media, who for a very long time tried to convince us that Stalin and Vladimir Lenin were anti-Semitic, and then I learned, wait, Stalin was married to.
Yes, they were literally a part of the Jewish cabal. That and credit
When I
to
talk
your,
about crushing history,
Yeah.
or if you even say that, which I'm saying it because I
Yes.
looked into it and I found a friend who understands Georgian, and they're like, everybody knows that Stalin was Jewish, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
Americans don't know
But
this.
10 days, they were the good guys. They helped us defeat Nazi Germany. They were the good guys. They were
As
on
they
our
were
team.
mass
They were on our
murdering
team.
Christians.
Oh, 100 million
and then
people.
they're
That doesn't matter.
psychopaths.
That
No.
doesn't matter. 100 million people got murdered. No. They're on our team. They're the good guys. That's what the history books say.
It's terrifying.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I've got so much to say about this, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh God.
There was a lot there, wasn't there?
It was. It's taken my brain a second to fucking okay.
Uh-huh.
The Marxist comment.
Yeah.
I've almost punched a dude straight in the face because I swear to fucking all that is holy in this world. He said Marxist 30 times in the same goddamn breath.
Yeah.
He was sitting there and he's like, oh yeah, you know, the court systems here, they're all run by Marxists, you know,
Yeah.
just Marxists. Marxists took over the world. Biden's a Marxist, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up, dude. And then going down from that, his fucking Arm and Hammer.
Oh.
What the?
Oh, trust me. Yeah. I had to look it up, so you're going to hear about it.
God. His Samad great grandfathers was you know a fucking Stalin, and it's like what does Samad great grandfathers have anything to do with his name being Arm and Hammer for one?
You're going to hear about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then everybody knows Stalin is Jewish. Oh yeah, and they were massacring Christians. You know, hundreds of thousands, 100 billion people massacred. And it's like, okay, first off, your numbers keep changing because before it was 12
No.
million Germans.
Here's something that they love to say about communism.
Yeah.
With, again, no real proof.
Yeah.
They love to say that communist countries, in total, killed 100 million people. What they don't say is that is a combined number from, like, Cambodia and China and the Soviet states.
Yeah.
What they don't say is that people weren't necessarily shot or sent to work to death in labor camps. If pressed, they will tell you that the communist regimes killed these people through means of like starvation.
Yeah.
Or expulsion, shit like that. You know, sending too many people to one place and whatever. Again, usually without proof, usually without historical context.
Yeah.
There are things like the Soviets did fuck up their farming.
Oh, yeah.
They fucked up their farming during the Stalin years. Khrushchev tried to right the ship quite a bit on that. I don't know how far he got.
Yeah.
But yeah, during the Stalin years, they did fuck up the farming. China, unfortunately, fucked up a lot of their farming. Lots of people died. But it wasn't an intentional, you know, like we need to purge this many millions of people.
Yeah.
They make it sound like that, though. And further, the Russians specifically, but the Soviets in total, they didn't keep people from worshiping the Russian Orthodox way.
Yeah.
But they saw how the Americans and other capitalist countries were trying to like shift Bibles with like, you know, anti-communist propaganda into them from outside the realm.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, they were keen to stopping that, which is kind of understandable.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, like in China, they had a lockdown on Christians, but not so much on Buddhists.
Yeah.
Or Taoists. You know, the Chinese communists, to my recollection, did not promote religion, but they understood that people just kind of need that shit.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, you were gonna say before we get further into this.
And then
I've got so much to tell you.
And then the Stalin thing.
Yeah.
And okay, Stalin, dead people. Right. At no point, and maybe it was just because of the Hickville, Florida, that, you know, I went to school in. Maybe it was just that, but I don't ever recall nobody saying that Russia was 100% our friends. I mean, yes, they were part of the Allied forces.
Yeah.
Yes, they helped us in the war. And then after that, you know, it went, once Hitler was dealt with and things were kind of getting tamed down, everybody went, okay, now it's time for the next dictator, Stalin. If you could please knock it off, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it was time for the Cold War.
Yeah.
As it were. Yeah, well, so one lie at a time here. First, the Communist Manifesto was printed in 1848. The founders of Pfizer came to America in 1849, but they were not Marxists or communists in any sense. They came to America to start a drug company and make money.
Fair enough.
So much money. The founders of kindergarten programs were also not Marxists. Tsar Nicholas II was assassinated in 1881, and rumors that Jews were responsible led to pogroms or sequestering and killing and brutal treatment of Jews during this time. Yes, people did leave Russia over that when they could, and many resettled in the United States. Candace is saying that these were the people that killed the Tsar. That's unprovable, for one. And two, it's just more theocratic fascism showing up. As for the Diamond District, yes, this was established by mostly Jewish immigrants, but most of those came over after escaping Nazi persecution in the 1940s. And they set up shop in New York City. I wonder why Candace sees this as a bad thing. Moving on, there is no Julius Armand. And maybe it's just me being cheeky as I slog through this, but it's Julius Armand Hammer she is talking about at first. He was a doctor and businessman that had a lot of illegal dealing with the Soviet Union, and he was the founder of the American Communist Party. His son, Armand Hammer, notably named after the Arm and Hammer logo that the American Communist Party used, but not named after the company famous for baking soda.
And cat litter.
Yeah. However, things got a little weird for Armand during the last few years of his life, as he got himself on the board of Arm & Hammer's parent company. Shit gets a little less confusing as the name Armand has been passed down the family line to actor Armie Hammer, who is actually named Armand Douglas Hammer. Ugh. Anyway, Julius Hammer, who they're mostly talking about, was known as Lenin's favorite capitalist.
Not his favorite Jew.
Yeah. And he did also have dealings with Stalin, but his Jewishness was rarely brought up in his own life, as he wasn't from a religious family. He never had a bar mitzvah, but scheduled to have one shortly before he died. So he did schedule one. Which, I mean, people finding religion late in life is nothing new.
Yeah.
But he wasn't known as anyone's favorite Jew, for fuck's sakes.
Man, I want to go to a 90-year-old's bar mitzvah. That
Right.
sounds like it'd be lit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he'd be expecting in those envelopes, but I'd give him like a Denny's Grand Slam senior card or some shit. I mean, oh wait, that would be lost on him. You can't have pork. You know? I mean, what's he gonna get at the most? Like pancakes? They're not kosher there.
No.
Denny's doesn't give a fuck about kosher. You'd have to actually put thought. I don't want to put thought into it. Fuck.
Just
God.
take them to Waffle House. Call it a day.
I guarantee you, there's nothing at Waffle House that's kosher. It is delish, and it is cheap.
I mean, the man was probably going to hell anyway. So.
I mean, yeah. Oh, he did so much smuggling. Oh my God. Like, he was known for it. Like, it was like, he probably just kept a door open just for when the FBI would show up, So I don't know where she would have gotten Lenin being anti-Semitic, as he definitely wasn't. He made huge steps to remove anti-Semitism from the Russian and Soviet culture. As for Stalin, he wasn't anti-Semitic much during World War II, but after the war, when he increasingly went crazy, he definitely was. I don't know where the fuck her Georgian versed friend got that shit, but Stalin was not Jewish. This is a well-documented matter of record. Stalin was not Jewish. Stalin's wives, plural, were also not Jewish. And as for millions of Christians dying during World War II, yes, that's true when you consider that 95% of the Nazis were Christians. And so were most of the other people that fought against them in World War II. Jesus.
Yeah, the deaths of Christians was
it was kind of going to happen.
Yeah, because and most of your
Allied
Allied forces in Europe.
The Nazis were aggressive Christians that killed other Christians in Poland first.
I mean, shit.
At that point, it doesn't matter who was slinging the blood of Christ around. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they were all fucking.
Yeah.
A good chunk of them were all Christians fighting each other.
Yeah,
and a good chunk. Because, like you said, the Nazis were aggressive Christians.
Yeah.
A good chunk of the Allied Christians were more likely to go, look, you're the last dude alive in this trench. We can just take you as a POW.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to put this bullet in you.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Right.
But if you charge at me or pull that pin, we're both going down.
Yeah. I mean, Candace goes on to talk over several minutes as she plays the hits, talking about Magnus Hirschfeld and shit. And then we get this one.
It is one of the goals. And for anyone who doesn't know what the Weimar Republic is, I encourage you to look it up and look at what happened.
And not on Google.
Oh yeah, not on Google. No way. You got to use BitChute. You got to use all these fringe websites that but why aren't we allowed to talk about it? Why aren't we allowed to talk about the problems?
That's the big question.
Yes.
And you realize that they have taught us World War II history like we're children. Like, I
Yes.
mean, it's everything they've told us, virtually everything they told us is either not true or a snippet of the truth or omitting something that would make us question more of their narrative. And they freaked out when I shared a BBC documentary, no less, because they had tried to, like, wipe this from the universe about how Germans were ethnically cleansed following World War II. Like, so there was no war going on. Immediately after, they allowed Stalin's to just go in.
In Poland, Czechoslovakia, they just wiped them off the face of the map.
It's insane. And then to know that prior to World War II, there's a book written by a guy, last name Kaufman, I'm blanking on the first name, where he said it's Germany must perish. Like, they literally wanted to get rid of Anglo-Saxons. And so when you have that context and you're going, whoa, 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 why was I never told about this book, which was published in America, about, like, he wrote a book about how they would have to just annihilate them, how they had to make them infertile, that they couldn't produce. And then you hear at the end of that war what was done to German-speaking civilians, and that should send a chill down your spine that you don't know it. That is what scares me, that we were never taught it, which means that we were specifically told an angle, and that angle has been protected for a very long time for a reason that must be evil, because lies can only be served to protect evil.
Yes, and you know what? I actually, and I'm going to get put in jail anyway, so I don't care. I'm going to speak my mind because you're here. So I actually realized this very, very early on. So I've always been a big history buff, and when I was 19, 20, 21, I was still traveling the world a little bit, and then I realized that every single country has their own version of World War II history.
It's almost as if other countries experienced it differently from us. Or differently from each other. I'm sure if you go to Britain or France, you know, one of those two places that got bombed to fucking hell, I'm sure they've got their own stories about things. We just lost a few boats. They lost fucking entire cultural segments of their fucking land.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if you go over there and go, hey, can I see your German history book? They probably have a different kind of book to shove in your face. It's a different language. Of course, there's going to be different interpretations. Come on.
Yeah, you've kind of seen where we're going with this next one.
Oh, fuck God.
I named that clip, History Be Different All Over, yo.
God damn it.
So first off, while I agree that Google has become untrustworthy, I wouldn't go to BitChute unless you're using a throwaway browser. And at that point, maybe a throwaway computer. That site is basically Nazi YouTube version 1. It was where YouTube personalities that got tossed for being Nazis went to first before Rumble. Band.video, Gab, Minds, Locals, and so many others popped up to serve the alt-right community. Second, Germans are not Anglo-Saxons. Not even historically. I left the part about Theodore Kaufman in there to say this again. He didn't so much write a book as he wrote a long pamphlet, and it didn't get much attention here. It was printed after the war had already started in 1941, and it was widely distributed in Nazi communities. I'll state again that the only place I have seen Candace's take on this is on Nazi websites and forums. As for the last bit, quote, I'm going to get put in jail, so I'm going to speak my mind. That tells me he's expecting for the charges to stick against him. Every single country does have their own version of World War II history, and that part is true. Because almost every country was involved. We all have different heroes and villains. That's pretty fucking normal. For him to have had this as an epiphany just shows how stupid he actually is. And why he's just world building here with Candace. He goes on to build onto the myth that no one in Germany is allowed to discuss World War II or the Nazis, which is very untrue. Then he says an 83-year-old woman was sentenced recently for just discussing the war, which is also untrue. My research turned up Irmgard Fürkner, a 97-year-old former secretary at the Stutthof concentration camp, was convicted for her role in the murder of over 10,500 people during World War II. She received a 2-year suspended sentence, but her case was related to her complicity in Nazi crimes, not for talking about the war. Ursula Haverbeck, a 93-year-old known as the Nazi Grandma, was sentenced to prison for Holocaust denial, which is a criminal offense in Germany. Her case involved denying the Holocaust publicly, not simply discussing World War II. Finally, an 84-year-old man was fined for possessing illegal World War II weapons, including a tank, in his basement.
Wait, how did he get the tank in the basement?
I have no idea.
Did he, like...
But he had it.
I want to know how
Yeah.
he got a fucking tank in the basement.
Yeah, well, anyway, I don't know. I didn't go that deep. They go on to discuss Operation Paperclip and how hypocritical it was, and then they talk about why the Gaza genocide sucks. No argument to either of those from us. Operation Paperclip was hypocritical, and the Gaza genocide does suck. Then they just keep playing the hits, Candace going into her whole Brigitte Macron accusations and saying that all the world leaders are gay. Then we get this added on to the tale.
On top of that, you learn that Macron was raised by his grandma, who also happened to work at a trans clinic, one of the first trans clinics ever to perform surgeries.
Yeah.
It's like, dude.
Yeah, she just can't stop lying. Like everything else about Emmanuel Macron, this is easily debunked. Macron's grandmother did not raise him. Also, cheap shot from a woman that grew up being raised in her paternal grandparents' home. But anyway, Macron's parents raised him and visited her frequently, which is pretty fucking common. Also, Macron's grandmother never worked in a trans clinic. She was a school principal for most of her life. They go on to repeat and discuss the lie about Brigitte Macron being a trans woman, both of them having done zero research into the French legal codes. One of the reasons it isn't being discussed in France is that the Macrons can't discuss an ongoing case, which their libel suit against the YouTubers that repeated the Facts and Documents story is an ongoing case.
Yeah.
And as we've previously mentioned, they can't sue the originator of the story because libel law only gave them 90 days to do that, and that period passed long before the YouTube story came out. France, y'all, I don't know who needs to hear this, but France ain't America. The laws work differently. But I actually do think that they know this and that it's easy to play up the ignorance while shooting off with lies, because the odds of their audiences going out and looking up the information on French libel laws is probably slim to none. But that's what I do.
Also,
Uh-huh.
I've said this once, a few times actually, before.
Yeah.
The fuck did France do?
I don't even know, man, because it's like Emmanuel Macron made it easier to be a rich dude in France.
Yeah, like, what the fuck did France do?
Yeah, they're just, well, they're just an easy, cheap shot target, I think, because Candace can say all this shit about France and Emmanuel Macron and shit. By the way, they wanted to, like, his consistent competitor for the office of president the last two times has been an outspoken fascist.
Yeah.
Marine Le Pen. So, that being said, they have a fascist angle. If you get a fascist installed, it doesn't matter who's in front of them. They want that fucking fascist.
Yeah.
Unless, like, even if the person is currently in office, even if Emmanuel Macron was less of a fascist than Marine Le Pen, they would still go after him because he's not hard enough.
Of a fascist.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I know I've had my times, you know, where I'm sitting there and I'm looking at a French word.
Yeah.
And I try to pronounce it, you know, how we're taught to pronounce things here in America.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes up and goes, actually, that's pronounced Francois. And I'm like, where in the hell did you get the hua in CIS? They're like, it's just implied, man. And I just go, fuck the French.
Well, it's usually like the little like symbols above the letters.
Yeah.
Is how you get like umlauts and stuff like that in German. Yeah.
But you know, it's still.
Yeah,
I don't hold enough hate in my heart for the French to go after them like this. Like, it's a hatred for the drunkenly made language they have.
Right. Well, I mean, honestly, all European languages were made by absolute drunks. It's because honestly, like, you know, okay, look, I'm sure there were people that put it together that you could boil water and it would be fine.
Yeah.
But if you're boiling water and you're making beer or wine, I get why maybe you would be like just hammered. all the time.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this is safer than that shit in the pond. It's like, yeah, but we used that shit in the pond to make the thing you're soused on. Maybe you could just drink the hot water. No. The fermented whatever this is so much better. You know, like I get it. I get it. I'm not gonna cheap shot all over them for that. But yeah. No, I'm convinced. I'm convinced every time I hear someone talking in like old Gaelic or any of the old languages, I'm like, y'all developed that when you were drunk. I'm convinced that you developed it when you were drunk, and that's why you have to be drunk to understand it, because I have to be drunk to understand it.
I've got a friend that speaks Old Gaelic. She learned it for college, whatever the fuck it was for college. Yeah. She just needed a class, and she was like, this is a throwaway class, Gaelic. And so she learned ancient Gaelic and New Gaelic.
Yeah.
And we've been sitting there before, and I just, I try to say something, and she says, oh, that sounds Gaelic. And I'm like, you can't speak fucking Gaelic. And she just goes, really? And I was like, yeah. She goes, at me, and I'm like, that's not fucking Gaelic.
Right.
You're grunting at me.
You're grunting Irishly at me, lady. I mean, so back into this. Candace goes on to talk about how every time someone in Hollywood or music decides to, quote, tell it like it is in the business, they get silenced as either being insane or drug addicted, or they get pedophile or other sexual charges thrown at them. Tristan says that he and his brother might be assassination targets for speaking, and then Candace says,
I genuinely don't know.
Well, that's it. I think that is their methods based on this book that I was reading that was banned in America in the 60s called
Obviously.
Hollywood Babylon. Is like they would just kill artists, either say they were drug addicts, commit them, or kill them. And once anybody was in their Hollywood cult and woke up to what was going on, and to see that this is the same strategy that they've been employing, like since the 1920s. In America, they're employing the exact same strategies, like trying to convince people they're either insane or they mysteriously died of a drug overdose. And don't ask any further questions because here's some stuff we're going to tell you about, that will just distract you because there's so many headlines. And I think that people are very much awake to it. I think the success of my show, Independent, shows that they're not buying the smear attacks.
Yeah, so I looked into the book, Hollywood Babylon. This is not to be confused with the occasionally produced podcast live show with a similar name, Hollywood Babble On, which is done by Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman.
Which is fucking great.
Yeah, that show is actually funny, to me anyway. But the book she mentions was banned in the 60s when it was produced. It was allowed to be reprinted in 1975. Candace likes to refer to it more often lately, and I will rue the day I actually go through the process to get a copy. Anyway, other, better people than me have reviewed and debunked many of the claims made in the book. The author uses a pen name, and as much as I'd like to respect that, he uses it because much of what he has written is flat-out lies. Look it up if you want to. The author's name is Kenneth Anger. Candace says one of her assistants got her a copy via eBay and it's all fucked up from having been read a bunch. I found it on Internet Archive in about 30 seconds. There is a follow-up available as well. They were easy to find. Both copies on there are free to read for an hour if you're a member, but nothing stops you from scrolling and screenshotting. Just saying.
I mean, it is an archive, so
Yeah.
Even, I am labeled agent of Russian disinformation by the Romanian government. Oh, perfect. Wonderful. And my crime was speaking to people who came across the border from Ukraine. That's it. On Instagram. Asking them questions live on Instagram. That's why I was labeled an agent of Russian disinformation. So these people were all, paid actors, paid actresses? A lot of them knew exactly what was happening and why they were fleeing to Romania. A lot of people knew the reasons. But again, child trafficking, human trafficking, all the orphanages in Ukraine are empty. Why? Where have the kids gone? This is something that people need to look into. I'm not sure if you looked into it yourself. Everyone's...
Man, I wish they were all this easy. Yeah, no. Tristan Tate has not been labeled an agent of Russian disinformation by the Romanian government. His charges are exactly what is on the public rolls. Mostly sexual crimes and trying to start a criminal enterprise. And the orphanages in Ukraine are not empty. Before the war with Russia, Ukraine had been undergoing a campaign to deinstitutionalize its child care system, making huge efforts to get kids into foster care environments or to stay with relatives rather than being wards of the state. Then along comes war with Russia, and 13,000 children, at last count, are now without both parents. As a person that pushes a movie about kids being adopted into foster care and out of a state system, Candace should know this shit. But as a Putin stan, it wouldn't benefit her to know it. Again, this took almost no time to look into. However, this doesn't stop this jackass from spinning this tale for the next 30 seconds or so, citing that he can't talk much on the subject because he's close to the Ukraine border. You know, Mr. Big Strong Man that wants to say all the other shit he said. Mr. Tough Stuff feels threatened because the story is made up, and if he keeps going, he'll slip. Candace seems to know how to roll on, though. She goes on to tell her story about receiving the Gardasil 9 vaccine. She has spoken about it before and in greater length, but she claims to have gone into a seizure after getting it. I looked it up, and that is a very rare reaction, like extremely rare. Tristan and Candace continue the conversation, practicing a slow one-upsmanship as they go, and then we get this.
Very, very simple, because the studies show the vaccine is safe and effective and everyone's fine. My mother quite literally had a heart attack in a year and a half ago, 7, 8 months ago. And I blame the COVID vaccine. She's a healthy woman. She exercises. 9 months before that, she had 2 doses of this poison because other family members convinced her to do it, even though I told her, don't never take this stuff. And she had a heart attack because of this. And, you know, the studies show it's safe and effective. And then she went to the hospital, and the doctors told her, you'll love this, it wasn't because of the vaccine. My mom's like, oh, it wasn't because of the vaccine. The doctor said so. Oh, the doctor who told you to take the vaccine. Well, that's funny, isn't it? And that's, I guess, airing my dirty laundry a little bit with these arguments I've had with my mother. But it's important for people to know. I want to tell the world that this happened because you have to stand up to people who will wave studies and data and science in your face and try and tell you that this is the way to do things because X, Y, and Z said so. Yeah. Who wrote this?
Uh-huh.
You know, maybe, just maybe, your mom's old. As heart attacks have been shown before in the past, the popular heart attack medication, at least down in Florida, back when we actually had cable television.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a commercial that aired constantly. I can't remember the name of it.
Doesn't matter.
But it was these 2 guys go into a dive bar. One orders a burger, one orders a salad, and the guy eating the salad fucking drops out of his seat due to a heart attack.
Oh, jeez.
And they state in the commercial, it doesn't matter how healthy you eat, how, unhealthy you are.
Yeah.
A heart attack can happen to anyone past this age bracket.
Right.
That was the whole point of it, was just go get your heart checked by the doctor.
Right.
Because you might be a health nut, but your heart could still be fucked. You know?
Yeah.
So, once again, maybe your mom's just hitting that age.
She's,
Well, or maybe she needs to cut back on the cholesterol. Maybe just a bit. I've seen Andrew Tate put away a fucking burger before. They're not strangers to cholesterol.
He famously ate a pizza that got him arrested because the Romanian government was able to pinpoint where he fucking was.
Now, not saying that their mother, eats that unhealthily, but also, it's completely possible.
That's the kind of idiot this guy is. His mother, who is in her 70s.
Well, fuck.
Hold on. It's going to get worse because you didn't listen to this clip as many times as I did.
All right.
His mother, who is in her 70s, gets vaccinated against COVID, and then 9 months later, she has a heart attack.
So after the vaccine has already run its course...
9 months later. 9 months later. And he blames the vaccine. Now, I didn't play the clip here, but Candace has said before that her grandfather, a man that worked hard for most of his life, got the vaccine and then died many months later. So she is receptive to this line of bullshit.
Have they ever just considered that maybe they're old?
No, that doesn't come up once. It doesn't come up once. No. So, yeah, they dish a bit for about how much experts in medicine suck. And then we get...
It's so funny because they really do believe in themselves. It's like elite academic class of people who have never accomplished really anything other than speaking, right? Like they're just like, oh yeah, I'm so smart and I can read this. And it's like, hey, great, you can't survive. You literally can't survive.
Yeah.
So the fact that you and I are in the same topic of conversation and that I've made it from the wrong side of the tracks and you had a cushiony life provided for you and we're in the same room should automatically imply to you that I'm actually smarter than you, right?
Yeah, okay. This is some typical alt-right world building that they all do. I'm so tough, I grew up rough, whatever. It's almost always bullshit. In Candace's case, I bothered to look into what Stamford was like for her growing up. Now, there were 2 racial incidents she lived through. One of them the whole world knew about, and another was found by that Vogue writer last year. But parking those aside for a moment, Stamford, Connecticut, was hardly the wrong side of the tracks as cities are generally concerned. When Candace Owens was growing up in Stamford during the 90s and the early 2000s, the city experienced varying crime rates. In 1990, Connecticut, the entire state, had a high crime rate of 5,387 offenses per 100,000 residents, which included both violent and property crime. That's 5,000 per 100,000 people. However, by the late 90s and early 2000s, now I've used 1990 as the basis there because she was born in 89. So anyway, by the late 90s and the early 2000s, the overall crime rates in Connecticut, including Stamford, had started to decline. Now, she left her rough neighborhood to live in her much better grandparents' house that we've discussed on previous episodes where we were going through blackout.
Yeah.
Around 98. Mm-hmm. She was about 9 years old. So, my research has had to go so deep, I know the apartment she was living in at the time.
Well, whenever they go and they're like, oh, I grew up so rough, and it's like, okay, in your Stamford neighborhood.
Oh,
it just reminds me of Key and Peele.
Yeah.
The one in between of their sketches where he's sitting there and he's like, I think it was Jordan. No, it was Keegan.
Yeah.
He was sitting there and he goes, neither me or Jordan can be rappers because to be a rapper, you have to have had a tough life. And Keegan goes, I had a tough life. I grew up on the west side. And he's like, hold up. The west side of where? And I don't remember the neighborhood he lists off, but he lists off one of the white neighborhoods in New York. And he's like, that is not a tough neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, well, so moving on here, right? So by the year 2000, the violent crime rate in Connecticut had decreased to 330 per 100,000 population from 366 in 1998. So that's a massive decrease of 5,000 incidents per 100,000 people to 330. That's a sliver of 5,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Stamford specifically had a lower crime rate compared to the national average. For example, in 2017, Stamford reported no murders, 30 rapes, 91 robberies, 171 aggravated assaults, 241 burglaries, about 1,500 larcenies, and 258 motor vehicle thefts. This was a significant reduction in crime over the years. Overall, during Candace's childhood, Stamford was experiencing a period of decreasing crime rates in line with broader trends in Connecticut. The city of Stamford, which had 150,000 people, was generally considered safer than many other areas with crime rates much lower than the national average. Also, to finish this one off, Candace did not grow up in the fucking housing projects. She grew up along with her sisters and brother in their grandparents' home in a nice neighborhood. And I know where that nice neighborhood is, and it is still a nice neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah. Looked it up, went to Google Maps, and just to be fair, just because Google fucking lies, I also went to Bing.
Yeah.
Looked at the street views, looked at the overall crime rates, looked at the realtor reports from the area. I looked at everything possible.
Yeah.
This is a nice neighborhood. Even going back 20 plus fucking years.
It's just always been a nice area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The area where her family moved from, not that great. Was never that great. Got better. I hate to think that they got better because the Owens family moved across the city. I don't think they were the cause, but, you know, I think someone like her would say that was possible if I was on her team, but I'm not, so we're not going to do that. So, anyway, next.
But yeah, I'm just trying to open people's eyes and live a good, righteous life,
Yeah.
good Christian life. You know?
Yeah, it's very difficult, but I do think that, like we've said, that something has shifted now, and I think people are starting to pay attention, and they're
Yes.
realizing is we're inching ever closer. Like, we're very close to losing the Western world. There's no question about that.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is the last clip we're going to play of this douchebag. He and Candace do go on for several more minutes, almost 15 minutes, but it's just them talking about books they enjoy, and I suspect him of lying about at least 2 of them. Anyway, it's not important. I just wanted to leave out with that last clip of an alleged rapist, human trafficker, and all the rest claiming to be a good Christian man trying to lead a good Christian life. It's fucking bullshit, but Candace just eats it up and goes with it. So we're going to move on to Andrew Tate next. He is way more annoying than Tristan, which I didn't think would be possible. The entire interview is almost 2 hours long, and I will be sparing y'all from most of it, because most of it is garbage. Candace plays the hits quite a bit with Andy, which makes for material we can skip over, because there are some gems in here. Andy, and living up to his example, pulls some of the worst out of her.
All right, guys, welcome to another special episode of Candace. Here's my theory. I believe that the elites are aiming for clinical retardation. I'm not kidding. I believe that if somebody produced a study right now and said, don't drink water, 50% of people in the world would perish. They would die because they would suddenly just stop drinking water because the data says don't drink water. And obviously, I have showed you guys many times in my podcast my favorite clip on the internet this year because it explains exactly my philosophy in life. It's the reason why we designed the second edition of the Standis Cups to say don't care, built different. It's very important for you guys to take a listen to Andrew Tate explaining what we can garner from the data, as he says.
I want to point out that it actually says conspiracy theorist on one side, and then on the other side it says don't care, built different. I'm partial to that because I named that fucking clip at the time, conspiracy theorists don't care. And then she used it just the next episode later, and I was like, what the fuck? But we covered that on the last episode, I think, or the one before it.
Yeah, we did. You went and replayed it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we are not playing that clip. We've played it before, and I see no reason to play it again ever. It's just Andy saying that he doesn't trust data, and he talks about how he knows. He just knows when to trust people because he's been around and he's built different.
I want to see. Did you did you write it phonetically to do the data?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't have to
you,
do that.
You actually
Yeah.
you actually took the second there to say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, he probably doesn't even.
I think he actually pronounces it like. I think he actually pronounces it more like he's in a Guy Ritchie movie. Dea. God, I hate him so much.
Here's
yeah.
I really hope he doesn't say pronunciation the way that I like to say it, because then it'll be douchey and I'll have to stop. Which is you know, fuck.
So here we go with the next one.
Perfect. We're gonna jump right into a conversation
Flawless.
with it's I've watched it too many times.
Well, it's kind of funny because you probably have this also. You have a point of view and people say to you, where do you get this point of view? Why can you think that? What source does it come from? I've been around. How can you think anything else? You know, and I'm not one to get in trouble, but I recently watched your show when you were talking about Macron, wife, husband, whichever one it was.
Dude.
The dude, and people were saying to me, Andrew, what do you think about that? And I said, well, yeah, 100% his wife is a man. And they said, why? I said, because he looks like a little you can see it. So what more do you want to see? You can see on his face. You can see on Macron's face that he's exactly the kind of person who would be groomed by a man. So it's obvious.
And then it's the common sense aspect where they're like, first and foremost, they are producing no evidence to the contrary. 30 years, not a single picture of this person exists.
Yeah.
We have plenty of pictures of his brother who suddenly went missing at the exact same time that Brigitte was born at the age of 30.
Yeah.
And people don't have that common sense to go, wait, that is quite strange. Why are they not able to just easily debunk this? And instead you're going to call everyone else crazy. And the thing that should terrify people is the fact, which you describe it as the Matrix, I think that actually is the right term, is that the Matrix works overtime to make it seem as though the people who recognize the insanity, recognize the homosexuality, recognize the pedophilia, are in fact the people that are crazy. Like,
Yeah.
it's a complete inversion of what's actually happening.
And the saddest thing is that it works. I mean, where did Macron even come from anyway?
Okay, so for this clip, I got tired of hearing that there are no pictures of Brigitte Macron as a young girl. Bullshit, of course. And I found one within a few seconds from, of all places, the fucking Daily Mail. From the article Candace first said sent her down the rabbit hole of this stupid conspiracy theory. We're only playing it to establish that Andy also does the yes and that it takes to make Candace like him. I'll be including the photo collage the Daily Mail made with the episode across platforms. I'll also be providing a link to the story that I am more certain now Candace never actually read, because it shoots holes in the whole damn thing.
Like the Swiss cheese.
Here, take a look at the pictures.
Yeah.
Like, that's her as an adult. That's the family photo. That's her
hers,
as a young
yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her as a very Catholic young girl.
Yeah.
All of this having been said, Macron was a political noob, kinda. He had worked in appointed positions in the finance sector of the French government and ran for the presidential seat in 2017. I would challenge Andy to tell me what notable any other French president has done off the top of his dome. I'm pretty sure it's about the same as I would say, which is fucking nothing, because French politics don't really matter much to me in the world outside of France and to non-French people. Candace and Andy go on to discuss how people will sell out and believe anything because no one seems to believe this crap about Brigitte Macron, and she tells the same fucking story from the Chaos book about people in a room saying a picture is not the thing on the picture, and I've heard it so many times, but I'm going to play it in the next clip to refresh the memory of everyone else. I want y'all to know I spare all of you the following from most episodes.
I think slavery is natural, actually. I thought about this for a long time because I'm going, how
What
could
the
you
fuck?
accept this? Like somebody telling you to stay at home, not see your family, double mask, let your parents die alone. Everything spiritually should be coming online going, this is not natural, this is wrong, and I'm going to fight this. But they get in line. And even when they know it's wrong, they're still fearful to speak out and say that for fear of persecution. And something that a study that I showed, like a study that was done by the CIA, an experiment rather, to my audience was
Never
where
showed it.
they sat a bunch of people in a room. This is a true CIA experiment. And 17 of them were agents, and one of them was from the public, but he didn't know that he was the only person that wasn't an agent.
Yep.
And they held up a picture of a triangle, and they went around the room, and they said, what do you see? And every agent, went through them first, and they said square, 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 square. It was clearly a triangle, square, square, square. They get to that last guy, and he says square, knowing fully that he is seeing a triangle.
Yeah.
So what they understand is that peer pressure, like the psychology of peer pressure, is a real thing, but it's stunning to me that grown men succumb to this, or something that's unbelievably wrong about that.
Yeah, completely. And that's why they attack masculinity so heavily, because truthfully, as a man, if you have an opinion which is different to other men, it crosses your mind, you might have to fight.
So she talks about that study so often that I'm almost convinced it's the only thing she read in that book, if she read it at all. And heaven help me, I just bought the damn book. It was $16 on Google Play. I got tired of waiting on my library system to have it available. The book is Chaos by Tom O'Neill. I'll let y'all know how it goes. Mostly because I suspect that Candace has not only not read the book, but I also saw a Cliff's Notes type of book in the store, which was $5.
Oh.
And I'll compare the two when I'm done with the source. Anyway, he goes on to say some more bullshit.
That's just how it goes, right? So if you're a man and you sit in that room and 17 men say it's a square, and you know it's a triangle, you're probably looking them up and down going, can I beat them all? Now me, I'm built different. I'll be like, that is a triangle, sir. You're wrong. But you have to have a lot of faith in yourself to be able to do that, right? A lot of people simply don't speak out because it's a scary thing to do, because now you have personal accountability, and then you have to defend your opinions also. And there's a lot of people who aren't capable of or are afraid to defend their opinions, so they just think, I'll just go with the flow. And that's the actual mess we're in. I don't think the mess is so much conservatives against liberals or the sane against the insane. It's this ether in between of people who are just like, it doesn't matter, and I'm not interested in politics, and they're just going along with the system, which is probably the largest contingent of the populace, and they're just allowing this clown show to continue for as long as it's continued. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but ever since 2020, I don't believe any of the elections are fair at all. I don't believe that any of the people in charge have our interests at heart at all. I believe it's a massive racket where everyone is just stealing. I believe if you speak against the system, the Matrix is going to come and they're going to use lawfare to try and destroy you. I said on a podcast I did 7 days before Trump's assassination attempt that there's no way they're going to let him win. Then his assassination attempt happened. Thank God he survived it. That was a miracle in and of itself. That's been memory hold now. That's been disappeared from the internet. Don't know if you saw this morning. All of the references between Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein have been removed from Bill Clinton's Wikipedia page a couple days ago. So that's gone. Nothing's printed anymore, right? So they just changed the typing.
So, as anyone is probably aware, the Trump assassination attempt did not get memory hold. That's bullshit. So is this latest claim about Epstein and Clinton. On Bill Clinton's Wikipedia page, under the tab for post-presidency 2001 to present, there is quite a lot of material. But the section on Epstein is large, and it is several sections down, but it is very much there. This is the mark of a liar who knows that fanboys will just gobble it up, and since they pay him money to be right, they won't fact check. And since he blows off people that tell him he's wrong, he never has to be right or factual about a damn thing. Naturally, he's one of her friends. Anyway, they eventually start talking about Israel, and Candace says something new.
Performed a terrorist attack and got away with it because of, I'm assuming, the blackmail they have on politicians, but the USS Liberty, we can't even talk about that in America. It's like this no-go zone. You can't talk about that, or the press is going to label you an anti-Semite for knowing that they murdered and tried to get away with it by flying in planes, unmarked planes, and bombing the USS Liberty to drag us into their war with Egypt.
Yeah.
That's not my ally. Not from a political standpoint, not from a personal standpoint. The second your state is protecting pedophiles and allowing them to escape from America after they've molested children, and then you go, oh, we'll keep them safe here. And on top of that, you get to take our tax dollars. We can't even extradite our pedophiles.
Yeah.
And you, like, why are you saying that?
And isn't an ally reciprocal? Like, shouldn't it go both ways? Like, what do they do for us? I understand we fight their wars for them and we protect them and we give them weapons and we do everything they want. That's fine. They're surrounded by enemies for some reason. Nobody seems to like them. That's fine. What do they do for us? Ever. Anything. Ever. It's really...
No one can tell you.
No one can tell you.
Okay, so first, Candace is correct that the USS Liberty was attacked by Israel in 1967. It happened during the 6-day war they had with Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. Israel claimed it was a case of mistaken identity, even though it should have been pretty fucking clear that the ship was an American vessel. 34 crew died and 171 sustained injuries. Israel apologized for the attack and paid reparations to the families of all of them that were harmed or killed. You can absolutely talk about it, but since the incident was handled almost immediately, it wouldn't get far. As for asking what Israel does for America, they conduct and pass along military secrets and research. That's what they do, along with using networks of spies and the like to gather intel on the Middle East that is fed back to America. That relationship is worth a known $50 billion in trade as well. I still feel safe in calling what they're doing in Gaza a genocide, as should anyone. As for what Candace has said about Israel accepting and protecting pedophiles, this is a mixed subject. A principal from Australia had 74 counts of sexual assault on minors levied against her and fled to Israel only to be extradited 10 years later, while a rabbi from America with a lot of similar charges tried to flee there and was denied access. Those are the top 2 stories I could find, but overall the citizens of Israel are definitely not cool with credible pedophiles asking for residence in their country. Candace says this often about Israel but never names anyone, at least not that I've heard. They go on to discuss Trump, post-assassination attempt, and how in their view he has changed and now seems to be working with his donors more openly. And then Andrew Tate, a man that will tell you he is the smartest and bestest boy in the world, says this.
Napoleon said, if fatigue makes cowards of us all, and he's certainly no coward, but it's amazing how Dave...
Actually, it wasn't Napoleon. It was another war hero, General George S. Patton, famous for killing Nazis.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they said it was Napoleon. But anyway, Patton used it to emphasize the importance of training, endurance, and overall physical conditioning in World War II. Maybe it's petty to go after him on this, but cut me a little slack here. I had to re-listen to a lot of the Tate Bros this week. Anyway, here's the rest of that clip, and it's funny to me how earlier these two were saying how they think Kamala Harris is a joke, but they're making excuses now for Trump and Elon.
War can grind you down. I can talk from personal experience. After 3 years of every single day you're fighting, and that's what they do. They know that you're too powerful a person to take out with one hit, so they just, it's like hyenas on a lion, you know, and they just bite. If I had to guess, I'm still praying for a Trump victory. I still think he's going to be the best president. I still think he's going to do his very best. I just feel like somewhere along the line, something has been agreed to prevent post-presidency or post-death for his empire, for his children. There seems to be some kind of deal somewhere. Again, I have no data on this. I've just been around. I feel like, and you look at the streets, let's talk about the streets, right? And the gangs, and they're out, and they're all killing each other. And then eventually you see one gang member walk past another gang member, and they don't kill each other. And you're like, something's been talked about now. It was different before. And it just kind of feels that way to me. I don't know exactly what the deal is. I'm not even going to say that I blame the guy for taking it. But some kind of agreement's been made, I feel like.
I feel the same, and I'm wondering if you do as well. Elon Musk seems a little bit different too. And I will admit, I was kind of all in on Elon Musk. I really thought, and I still give him tons of credit, but he has fought a war that few people will ever understand really what he went through to really rescue speech at a moment where it was going to be the darkening. It was over. If they had gotten Twitter, it would have been done. And we saw what was happening, obviously, with all the COVID stuff, taking videos down, people talking about their own experiences with the shot. And then Elon Musk rescued Twitter, and he went to war with them. I mean, you remember him on stage screaming at Bob Iger of Disney, and saying, "You're not going to blackmail me," and do all of these things. And now it seems, and I don't want to say that he's been blackmailed at all, but I just feel like it's a different Elon, and it could be what you're speaking about. Day in and day out, there is going to be some sort of fatigue that manifests of having to fight people with a tremendous amount of power who do not let up one single day.
Oh, they never let up, and you have to choose your enemies, right? And sometimes you have to do a deal with people who you perhaps don't even always want to do a deal with to survive. It's difficult at the very, very top. We're talking about the highest possible echelons of power. And there's a lot of different interests coming your way, and you have to sit there and go, can I really war all of them? Or can I just ally with this one team? Which is unfortunate, because people who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. It seems to be the same team every time.
Maybe if Elon, put more of his money into R&D, maybe then he could sell a successful truck that maybe wouldn't fall apart at 60 miles an hour, and then maybe he wouldn't need to, quote-unquote, shut the fuck up so he doesn't lose any more fucking money.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
here's some, I didn't include it in the script here, but Elon is now trying to sue companies that pulled their ads from Twitter.
Okay.
He's trying to sue them because, like, they've been pulling their ads left and right. Like, some of them publicly, others just quietly. But yeah. Well, talking.
Twitter's a dying format, and Reddit's loving it.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of Reddit, Elon has a personal beef with one of my favorite forums on Reddit, Cyberstuck.
Oh, yeah. You told me about that one, yeah.
He wanted to sue them, and they're like, okay, whatever, man. So, yeah, Elon never screamed on stage at Bob Iger of Disney. He made statements on Twitter, and Musk did say a lot of shit at a DealBook summit where he went after Disney and other companies for pulling their ads from Twitter. But it does warm my cold black heart a little to see people like this prepping for a Trump loss. Candace starts playing the hits more as she discusses things we've covered in prior episodes about her version of how the ADL was started, how she thinks Sigmund Freud was a pedophile, and so on.
Does she get back into satanic NASA?
Yeah, probably. They get further on and discuss how politicians and other public figures get manipulated by sex rings involving rape slaves or children, and how they get blackmailed with no names attached. But then Candace starts saying names in her theory that all men in power are also secretly gay.
It's another thing, and that is what kind of leads me to believe that a lot of these people are being blackmailed and they're being selected for these positions. I mean, Emmanuel Macron is a homosexual. There's no question about that. Zelensky is a homosexual. You've got, I was going to say, I almost said Fidel Castro. Trudeau, Fidel's son. You got Trudeau, he's a homosexual. Barack Obama was a homosexual. And then finally when we get in the West, a president who's definitely not a homosexual, Donald Trump, they just freak out. They completely lose their minds. This guy cannot be president. He's not allowed to be president because there's no aspect of the most extreme form of blackmail, which is like, if we know that you have engaged in pedophilia, that you've been involved in any of these weird sexual scenarios, we can control you in office. And there's obviously, the deep state thing is not a conspiracy theory. It's
Sucked a dick, you're going to hell, I guess. I mean, yeah. That was a little much for you.
Like, okay, I heard her say Emmanuel Macron.
Right.
I heard fucking, what was the second name again?
She went with Macron, Zelensky, Trudeau, and Obama.
All right.
Yeah.
See, I've heard her do the Zelensky and the Macron.
Uh-huh.
Trudeau was okay. That's a little out there as far as my knowledge goes. But then Barack Obama.
Yeah, no, they tried saying for years that Obama was gay, and he never was. He was like famously against gay marriage when he started the presidency, and then he got cool with it over time. But yeah, one of the things that she loves to bring up that I'm pretty sure it was on the Candace Owens show back when she had played a clip on one of her shows of Zelensky dancing on stage in like high heels and tight pants or something to Beyonce's Single Ladies song. And she said that he did this after like this is what he does with the money that we send over there. That clip was from the comedy show that he had been on prior to becoming president.
So he was on an SNL style show.
Well, he was on a show like I think he was a famous comedian over there for years.
Okay.
But he was on this show about a guy who gets a job working, I think either in the presidency or as the president. I don't know the details of it because I haven't looked it up. Mm-hmm. But as I understand, it did really, really well.
Yeah.
And he was a well-known actor and ran for office and got it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that clip she said was current on her program, and like her user comments, I had to go and look up like how this even, what were people even talking about? But her user comments I didn't play from one of her early Candace shows was people going, "You're absolutely right. I looked it up and Zelensky was dancing and all this shit." It's like, yes, on a comedy scripted drama show. Come on. Yeah, that's how unbelievably dumb people can be. But yeah, okay. So here we have Candace repeating things I don't think we've covered before because I usually blow past it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, everything she said there, she believes with zero proof that any of those men are actually gay. and with zero proof that Justin Trudeau, who resembles his Caucasian father and mother, is... Yeah, Candace has been saying for a long time that he is Fidel Castro's son. So, yeah, as for the stuff about Trump, he was and is very controllable with sexual allegation material. His lawsuit and criminal convictions from the Stormy Daniels case bear that out, not to mention several other credible claims that were made against him over the years, such as the case involving E. Jean Carroll. Trump was always controllable, perhaps more so than others have been. His strongman bullshit was always an illusion for the weak-minded, as it continues to be. He goes on, Andrew Tate goes on for several minutes with basic manosphere crap. We're not going to play it. It's just his standard talking points about how society has ruined the idea of men taking care of their families. But then we get into this from Candace and Andy.
Real rich from the guy. He doesn't have like his own, like he doesn't have a wife or kids.
Oh no, he has kids apparently. I don't think he has a wife, but he has like 2 daughters.
Once again, very rich coming from the man, because I don't think he brought them to Romania with him and his brother.
Oh, I don't know. Nothing would shock me anymore. So here we go with the next clip.
This gets into why I think that they attacked you. It actually wasn't my idea, so I have to give credit here to Dave Smith, because he's wonderful, and I had him on for a couple of hours last week, and he introduced a fact to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally why they attacked Donald Trump. It's why they attacked you. He was actually referring to David Duke and how there was this full media left and right attempt when he was running for governor to take him down, and how somebody had written an article about how strange it was because they tried to say it was because he was in the KKK, but obviously people that were in the KKK just went on and became the Democrat Party. Like, nobody cared about that. Yeah. And actually what it was that he unexpectedly galvanized the populist right, and he said it's the only thing that the establishment is actually really fearful of, is people that for whatever reason are able to galvanize real men. He's like, the populist left, nobody cares. Like, the blue hair, tattoos, skateboarders, but the populist right are people who know how to shoot, who know how to hunt, and who will go to war for their families. Yeah. So any person that unexpectedly galvanizes men that like embody true natural masculinity is going to be attacked by the Matrix. I never understood why you were so... It made no sense to me. It's like, I met you with George years ago, and then suddenly I looked up and every single person was doing like an Andrew Tate is this video, and then I realized, oh, okay, after Dave Smith put that piece together for me, I'm like, he unexpectedly galvanized what would be the populist right. You're talking about men returning to masculinity. It doesn't matter what they say. You can be great. All of the stuff that cannot happen when they're trying to turn everyone into a homosexual, because it's easier to subjugate homosexuals, because homosexual men aren't going to be an army of people that go and try to like grab their guns and take on the government.
Well, they're used to bending over.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's and that's what the government wants you to do, right? They're used to bending over. In fact, they quite like it, which is exactly what the government wants you to do. And no, I think you're right. I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to reach such a large subsect of the population, and I was making it clear that masculinity on some level is saying no. That's what being a man is. Being a man is saying no, even if you look...
Okay, no, Andy. No, Candace. No to pretty much all that shit y'all just said.
Are we gonna ignore the fucking Roman and Grecian armies?
Oh.
Specifically the Spartans?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a mixed bag. But first, I want to point out, she said that the Dave Smith / David Duke shit happened in the prior week, which means that she had anywhere from 1 to 7 days to figure out why she and he were wrong about that whole thing, and maybe also learn why David Duke is not someone you want to defend in any kind of way. Mm-hmm.
When referring to it in the future, you should refer to it as the Dave Smith and David Dookie.
Maybe the Dave Smith Dookie?
There we go.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. We'll workshop it.
Yeah, we'll workshop it.
So, second to all of this, I have personally known plenty of fearsome and flamboyant gay men that would absolutely dominate in a fight. I've known several that are always strapped and know how to fire a gun, but more importantly, when to pull a concealed weapon and when not to do so. I don't think either of these idiots has ever heard of things like chapters of the John Brown Gun Club. For those of you in this audience that are left-leaning and are either firearm aware or would like to be, the John Brown Gun Club is a loose association of left-leaning to hard left groups that promote gun safety and protection at events as armed stewards. If you live in or near a major metro, the odds are good that there is one near you. They are named after the 19th century abolitionist John Brown, and you can research them further if it suits you. I personally like them and look forward to joining a chapter when I can do so. Anyway, Andy sucks, and his lack of pushback on David Duke tells me he either doesn't know about him, or he does and he knows better than to say so, given the state of his criminal cases already. What follows is an example of the yes and method.
Actual innate power, and they're empty inside, and they don't believe in anything, and they want you to comply, they want you to obey. They want to intimidate you so they feel like there's something. That's why weak people in charge are so dangerous, because we all see what they do once they're weak. I saw Keir Starmer's stupid face. Put me in jail. I saw his stupid face standing up there. Oh, we're going to arrest everyone. They're trying to act like a tough guy. I saw the weakness in his eyes. I know what kind of person he is. He's not a good person. And he's saying the people of the UK are not allowed a point of view anymore. You're not allowed to speak. Full Stasi. It's incredible. It's actually quite scary.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is there were a ton of studies done. The globalists, even at a certain point, and I am talking about that the reason why Sigmund Freud, despite the fact that he was a pedophile and protected pedophiles, is still taught in the classroom, is because he is considered the father of psychology because he gave them this award, and he was actually a Kabbalist, and so he worshipped the Jewish Kabbalah, and the Zohar was his book, and so he basically trained, and they ran these programs to even see how they could create a psychopath, right? And how they figured out that they could create a psychopath was molestation was a component of this, like molest them from the time that they are a child.
Yeah.
And so I don't think people understand that if a man was raped when he was a child and then was exposed to all of these other elements and then becomes a world leader, he has an element of psychopathology that has been intentionally bred into him. And he will do things in a way that you will be shocked. People talked about how Emmanuel Macron during COVID, the French people were saying, like, they realized he was a psychopath. Like there was something he was getting, like there was a sadistic element in torturing people in a way that, for example, if you had a woman with a family, this is why even saying like women should have families before you allow them to go climb a ladder, they are removing these aspects that are natural where you're going, oh, maybe I shouldn't torture these people and let these people die alone. Well, these leaders don't think that way. Like you have to confront the actual evil that we are facing. Like this is a cult of people and they are literally deriving pleasure from your pain.
Well, let's talk about let's use some historical context. We're in the country of Romania, so Dracula is based here in Transylvania. Dracula is based on Vlad the Impaler, which was a man who had a castle about 3 hours from here, and he was famous for impaling people. He put a spike up one hole and out the other, and he'd impale them and stick them out on the streets. And what he was doing is when he was fighting the Ottomans, every time he'd kill an Ottoman, he'd impale them, but the Ottoman army outnumbered his 6-7 to 1, so he decided to try and scare them. So he went to local villages of his own people and impaled them, and just stuck them on sticks and just put them all along the road. So when the Ottomans started marching, they'd march for hours, seeing all these impaled people. He impaled people and chose impalement and got pleasure from impaling people because he was molested as a child. Because the Ottomans, when they got hold of him, sodomized him. So when he became the leader, he thought, I'll show you all a lesson. And he impaled everybody. That was his thing.
Yeah.
So that exactly what you just said. These people are morally corrupted.
So I shouldn't have to say this, but Freud was not making psychopaths. He was also not a pedophile, nor did he protect such people. The closest thing to what Candace is saying is the MK Ultra program, which didn't deal with children. As for what Andy said at the end of the clip, it's a matter of dispute. Some scholars claim it could have happened. Others say that Vlad as a child was treated well by the Ottoman Turks when he was a captive. But there is no evidence either way. For Andy to state it as a fact is absurd. He goes on to talk about how Rome fell through the alt-right talking point that it was because Rome allowed foreigners in, and it's all very dumb, but...
At least based off of 3-part series that I had watched on, that there was a science streaming channel.
Yeah.
I had watched a 3-part series on the beginning and fall of the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
Which, included the Romans and their fall. And what led to the fall of the Romans was they fucked up their currency. And by the time they realized they fucked up with the currency, it's kind of too late.
Yeah.
So they were already starting to structurally collapse due to that.
Yeah.
And then the people that they listed as the sea people, which were raiders on boats, they weren't being let in. They were invading, going in, stealing everything, lighting everything on fire, killing 90% of the populace of where they were invading, and then leaving.
Yeah.
There was no, like, immigration of, hey, we'll let you in, and then they, stuck the knife in their back. No, they attacked, set the place on fire, left. That's...
I mean, death by 1,000 cuts and, death from corruption within. Like, it's all very, like, it's sadly very normal, but, Rome lasted for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
But, anyway, then we get...
I think the reason they actually fear Trump so heavily is not because he's going to make any large policy changes, because they still have their fingers on all of the strings. And even if he makes a change, they can change it right back. They're scared of the culture shift. They're scared of Trump winning because it's going to inspire men to be more masculine, and that's what they're actually afraid of. Right. They're afraid of a big man being a big man. They're afraid of him standing up and saying things. They are furious. This reporter you named, who I don't even know who she is, that's how insignificant she is. People like them can't stand the fact that when he says, grab her by the we're like, so?
I literally couldn't have cared less about
so?
that. Like, this is like locker room talk.
Yeah,
Who cares?
I was like, what do you mean you don't care? It's like, I don't care.
Okay, I hate to interrupt again, but I have to tell you guys about American financing.
So, Trump is not a big scary man. He isn't. He's a weird dude with old failed ideas. He represents a large group of people that think he's smart, which says a lot about them. The average Trump voter is not a threat. They have no real arguments, no proof that their ideas work, and unless they have people to back them up or a firearm handy, they aren't much to be worried about. No one is really afraid of them as individuals. Our problem is that with the seat of power, he can grant powers and threat level to people in a way that it can't be reduced except without great effort, which is the entire point of Project 2025 policies. As for the bit about the end about how no one was concerned with the whole pussy-grabbing hot microphone stuff that was released in 2016, again, it says more about his voters that chose to ignore that, and the Stormy Daniels affair, and the many other credible stories about Trump, many that have facts and dates and law paperwork attached to them. It says more about the Trump voters that they brashly ignore the obvious in service to the pedestal they placed him on. This includes Candace, who will throw almost anyone under the bus with her audience, often with incredible and unprovable claims about them, but Trump is untouchable and is not to be held to the same standards as everyone else, because in many ways this is a cult of personality movement. And he goes on to talk shit about Harris, and say that she can't answer policy questions, which is bullshit. But anyway, Candace follows with something that I think is going to be her next set of talking points. A little review of her work from the interview with Tristan Tate.
That stuff is what's bred in the classrooms, and that's why I really do believe, there's no question, like our education system, even from kindergarten, was established by communists. Like we had this huge influx of people. It's actually a really important time in world history for people to realize the 1848ers, so to speak. They tried to overthrow what today is Germany, and it failed. And then a bunch of them who tried to overthrow the government came to America, and they went on to become Pfizer, people who instituted kindergarten. Yeah. And I think that really when our government got completely taken over, like McCarthy was actually a hero, saying like commies are here. Yeah. We're taught in the classroom that he was like this paranoid person. No, he was trying to save America. Yeah. America died the day they shot JFK. The last Catholic president shot in broad daylight by the deep state. They took over because he was going to shatter it. He had realized that the commies were in control. I mean, the CIA doesn't represent American interests at all. Like they're all about just subjugating the world. They're global elites. Yeah. I think the CIA and the Mossad are the exact same organization. But it's fascinating to see that you do see this recurrence of people that are repeating things that they've learned in the classroom over and over.
So here's what happened in 1848 with the German Confederation. In 1848, there were significant attempts to challenge and potentially overthrow the existing government structures within the German Confederation. These efforts were part of the broader wave of revolutions that swept across Europe during that year, known as the revolutions of 1848. The German revolutions, specifically, were driven by widespread dissatisfaction with the autocratic political systems and a desire for national unification and liberal reforms. The revolutions in the German states were marked by a series of protests and uprisings, beginning with demonstrations in Vienna and Berlin. In Vienna, students and workers demanded a constitution and universal male voting, leading to the resignation and exile of the influential Austrian Chancellor Metternich. In Berlin, similar demands were made, resulting in violent clashes and temporary concessions from King Frederick William IV of Prussia, who promised reforms and the unification of Prussia with Germany. The Frankfurt National Assembly was convened in May 1848 to draft a constitution for a unified German nation-state. However, the assembly faced internal divisions and lacked the power to enforce its decisions. It ultimately failed to achieve its goals when King Frederick William IV refused the imperial crown offered by the assembly, citing divine right as the source of his authority. Despite these revolutionary activities, the efforts to overthrow the existing government structures were ultimately unsuccessful. The conservative forces, including the aristocracy and the monarchs, regained control, and many of the liberal and democratic reforms were rolled back by 1849. The revolutionaries, who were unable to maintain popular support and unity, were defeated, and many were forced into exile. They did not come to America and start kindergarten programs and drug companies. The other big alt-right myth about how JFK was going to shatter the CIA has no merit. While there were indications that he intended to overhaul and reduce American military and intelligence maneuvers abroad, there is no concrete evidence that he ever intended to disband the CIA. It's just another alt-right talking point. Andy goes on for several minutes on great replacement theory shit, and we're not playing it. Then we get into a thing they will not stop saying once they hit upon it. Oh, where did I? Yeah. And you have to hear it to believe it at least once.
Trying to convince women to act like men and for men to act like women. I mean, even straight men are homosexual. That's how I feel. Even men that are straight, I'm like, but you act like a homosexual. And it was one of those things that people were asking me. You know, I didn't actually feel like, and this is kind of surprising because it was the UK, that I even met real men until I went to the UK. There's like, it was very hard for me in America. I will say, like, I was in New York City, so there's obviously homosexual straight men. You know what I'm saying here. And then I get to the UK, and then I meet my husband, and like, he hunts, he shoots, he knows how to skin an animal, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want. Like, I want a masculine man. And so it's interesting because you and your brother have opened up this debate in America about what is true masculinity, right? This is the argument. They're not truly masculine. Like, you shouldn't follow that. Like, what's truly masculine? And now you ask, okay, then what is your prototype? Tell me who we should be following. If it's not the Tate Brothers, what is real masculinity? I've asked this question before, and I've gotten some answers. Some people will say, you know, Jordan Peterson is a better example of masculinity, you know, and so your idea is that people that have philosophy and talk about masculinity is true masculinity. If a war came tomorrow, just asking this question, by the way, maybe the answer is yes, I don't know. Do you think that, like, Jordan Peterson has the skills? If everything's taken away and you're in the wilderness, this is how I think. My husband and me are surviving. We are surviving in the wilderness, and you're not, because you are now married to a straight homosexual. You know, who, like, he's straight, but he's also a homosexual.
Oh, you nailed it. They're all gay. Everyone's gay. You literally nailed it. I had this conversation with someone the other day. I was talking to some guy, and I was saying that I don't trust a female pilot. And he said, why? I said, it's not because I'm a misogynist. It's because I think men are calmer under pressure.
Yes.
Men are calmer under pressure. And he goes, why do you think that? So why are you pretending you're confused as to why I think that? Haven't you gone through life and ever just seen a high-pressure environment? Or is it just me when I've been in high-pressure environments and I see women, they're not built for it. They're not supposed to be.
Unless it's kids, then it's the exact flip.
Yeah, well, then they're ready to
Something
kill.
happens with the kids, yes. And then suddenly, like, I'm like, George is like, I don't know, he's crying, I can't focus. I'm like, what do you mean he's crying? Like, that's like, I can do 20 things at once with children, and you're like, oh, biology is real. Like, we have these natural proclivities, and they're real.
100%. Absolutely true. And you're right. And there's men, I find it extremely weird that you see these men who are begging for a female president. I mean, it just feels gay.
It's gay.
It's gay.
Very gay.
I want a woman to be my boss. Like, it's just gay. It's just gay. I don't know what else to say. It's so weird, these people. And you're right.
So, yeah, they're going to say some version of straight gay many times through the rest of this episode. I'm going to attempt to avoid playing it when I can, but just know that it's their new toy. As for Candace not having met men in America that can claim to hunt fish and all of the above, that's on her. Anyway, they go on for several minutes to discuss what a real man is, and surprise, surprise, it's either Andy Tate or her husband. No other type of man can exist. It's almost 10 minutes of Andy talking nonstop. Candace tells a story that almost certainly did not happen next. I've named this clip Restaurant at the End of Believability.
People I can beat up, which is the problem. But this is a true story. You're gonna love this. It actually made me think about just exactly what you're talking about when we talk about these straight homos. I was at a restaurant the other day with children. I'm sitting with children having pizza. Another gay Zionist, but out of nowhere, he pretends to be a fan, and then gets in my face with the camera and starts calling me an anti-Semite. If you want to see me, I have pledged on this show, the only time I will ever get arrested is if you come up to me when I'm with kids.
Yeah.
That is Mama Bear. That is like Mama Bear takes out the Papa Bear when you're with
100%,
kids.
100%.
And so once I got someone to just like move the children, I went up to, he's with his wife. Okay, his wife allowed him to do this. If my husband ever went up to a wife and a woman and children, and he thought it was a 6'3", gets in
Morally
my
corrupt,
face,
yeah.
I got so close. I think he started realizing like I was gonna fight him. Like I was literally just like, do you understand? Like I was so close to his face. I was like, you are a coward. You are pathetic. I was like, I looked at his sons. I said, you should be ashamed of this. This is the opposite of what a man is.
Yeah.
His job, his instinct should be when he sees a woman and children to protect it.
100%.
I go, your father reads the New York Times, thinks everything of the New York Times tells him is real, and he suddenly got like, very kind of intimidated. I said, post the picture.
Yeah.
Post the video that you shot of me, because I'm going to make you as famous as you want to be.
Yeah.
Still has not been posted.
Yeah.
Please, if you are watching, post it. Like this straight homo needs to become famous. And I said to his wife, you should be ashamed. You think this is a man to come up to children and a woman because you read something in the New York Times that told you Candace was an anti-Semite because she doesn't support Bibi Netanyahu blowing children to smithereens? Like that is your worldview now? That this means I hate all Jews? Like it's such a nonsense. But this is the average man now. Where I was like, he needs to understand. Like this man needs to have his ass beat. And I say that in the most honest sense. Like you should be required as a man to be in a fight.
Yeah.
Like because it changes something within you.
100%.
Because you think you're fighting a tough battle because you're walking up to a woman and children to talk about Bibi
To
Netanyahu.
defend the New York Times?
Yeah, you're just like, you're a straight homo.
Bro, yeah, 100% straight homo. It's clown world. It's funny, this reminds me of a story. I haven't told this story.
But he would have never done that if it was you sitting with
Oh,
your daughter.
never in
Never.
a million years.
Because he would have realized right then, we're fighting.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's right. That's right. And, it's interesting.
Yeah, I cut that before Andy could get into a long-winded story of his own. For those of you that are unfamiliar, this is another common tactic of these people. Alex Jones and Tucker often do the same thing. They tell stories about people fucking with them in public, in restaurants, hot tubs, whatever. And of course, yeah, Alex Jones is famous about hot tub, like, getting fucked with when he's in the hot tub. Like at a hotel or whatever. Yeah, it's a whole like subgenre of knowledge fight.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a
Hot tub globalists. Which sounds
but-
like a great band name.
when you say getting fucked with in a hot tub, first thing my brain went to was, is that a category on Pornhub? Right?
I mean, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, everything's a category on Pornhub. What is it, Rule 34?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, of course, these idiots are always the hero. The fact is, Candace is enough of a public figure that I do not believe this occurred because she cannot help herself in any way and would have mentioned it on the show by this point. So, I call bullshit. Next, Andy gets a story very wrong to prove some kind of point he wants to make.
Look at it right now in the UK. 3 little girls were stabbed. The girls that were stabbed were the same age as my daughters. I have 2 daughters age 4. 3 little girls were stabbed to death. A man shouldn't have to feel what a blade is like entering his body, let alone a little girl. It's disgusting. I have seen 0 conversations about how to protect little girls. All I see are the straight homos marching, talking about how they're not racist. What the are you even doing? Have you lost complete context of the situation? Every single conversation should be about how to protect children. And there should be nothing off limits. We shouldn't be afraid to discuss the fact that if people come from X country, they commit violent crime at a 300% higher rate than if they come from other countries. Because everyone talks about the UK being racist. It's probably one of the least racist places on the planet. You want to see racism? Go anywhere else. Japan. Africa. They're racist in Africa. They're racist in the Arab world. Everyone's racist. We're the least racist place. And instead of marching to protect little girls, the man who stopped the knife attacker should be a national hero. He should be everywhere. I haven't even seen his face. They don't want to show him because they don't want to remind people the little girls were stabbed. Instead, they want to divert the whole conversation to don't be racist. And now we have all these straight homo men walking around, we showed the far right, yeah, don't be racist, as if they've achieved something. You've forgone the argument completely. When the knife-wielding attacker is near you, you're going to piss your pants and run. And now you're walking around saying don't be racist. Now, I agree with don't be racist, but if you are asinine and stupid enough to believe that if you're going to allow thousands of people into your border unchecked, that some of those people are not bad people, you're an idiot. And I wouldn't even say that you're too stupid to conceptualize that. I'd say they're too cowardly to admit it. Because they're too scared to be racist. So now they're too scared to admit that by refusing to refute that idea, they're letting bad people in. They're going to say, no, all 1 million we let in are all good. They're all doctors. They're all physicists. You don't have to be racist to understand it's not about skin color. If people come from a war zone, they've seen trauma.
So, yes, the event where the girls got stabbed did happen. But what Andy is leaving out of it is that the assailant wasn't a foreigner. His name wasn't supposed to be made public due to laws that protect minors from being named in the British press. But when his name came out, many assumed wrongfully that he was a Muslim immigrant. He is not. He is a 17-year-old male that was stopped by police. The cop that stopped him is known but is staying out of the press. This is just another story among many with these ding-dongs that will tell you that bringing in refugee seekers is going to ruin your society and that none of them should be trusted. It's disgusting. He goes on to say, as Candace piles on, that people come from war-torn countries can't be trusted to assimilate into society because they have PTSD. Never mind that millions have done so. Fucking racists. Candace goes on to accept a basic name for herself that we may add now to her lexicon of titles.
And they're not going to be particularly balanced all of the time. I would argue if a child sees their parents blown to smithereens, they're not going to grow into a pretty balanced, happy, normal, sane individual. They're coming from the worst places on the planet.
Well, that's part of it too. Is like people don't be racist, don't be this. I'm definitely a bigot. Like, I mean, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, that's street smarts, right?
Yep.
Predicting what I can garner from just looking at you, the
Pattern
vibes you're
recognition.
giving,
Yep.
the vibes you're giving. What can I understand about what I'm under? I don't trust you. I don't like the way you're moving. I don't like the way you're dressed. Now they're training people to go having those gut instincts that keep you alive are bigotry. Racism, homophobia. It's like, you're telling me this is a party with all homosexual men? Yeah, no, my young son's not going. Right? Oh my gosh, how dare you say that? Like, this is homophobic, this is heterophobic, this is all of these words really, in my view, meant to just delude people away, like from trusting their gut instincts. Your gut is divine, okay? Your gut is telling you something's not right. Like, the person in the classroom says he's a non-binary person who believes that, like, age limits should be evaporated, and he's teaching your kindergarten teacher, and your son, and you're allowing that to happen because you're fearful that people at school are going to call you a bigot. Like, I'm a bigot, okay? I put those on, I'm a bigot, I am a bigot, so let me figure out what I have to know about you, because I'm going to let you know whether or not you're allowed access to my children. And so I tell people, do not allow them to call you a bunch of names that essentially rinses you from that divine gut instinct that you have. That's the Holy Spirit saying you, don't trust this person for whatever reason. And then you have the government telling you that whatever reason that you have, is not right because it's some ism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, whatever.
It's pattern recognition. And they don't want you to have basic pattern recognition skills anymore.
Yeah.
Did she just go from... Did she just go from, the whole ability to, read people and all that? Did she just go from saying it was a natural biological thing to the Holy Spirit?
Yes. She equates her gut feeling, which Alex Jones loves talking about his gut feeling,
Yeah,
with being in her case it's the Holy Spirit. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think we can now add Mama Bigot to her titles because she called herself that.
Mama Bigot.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're talking about basic pattern recognition. I saw the pattern emerge as we have been covering Candace Owens, that she is a Christo-fascist, and then she herself said that she's a theocratic fascist. Other people have called out more important people for their bullshit from the patterns they are following, so most people are pretty good at pattern recognition. And as for the bit where they were saying the liberals are pushing for relaxed age of consent laws, nope. Because they would name them. They would name those people. As for naming names, Candace has now called herself Mama Bigot. It's tempting to use, but we'll shelve it for now. I think it's enough that she is aware of it.
And that's what's so crazy, especially with all the things you just said. Absolutely nailed it. Especially with this racism marketing.
Like, would you hire a male nanny?
Bro, you must get this. You must get this more than me, right? Because I'm mixed, half black, half white. You were black, right? So they must say, "Why are you racist? Why have you turned on your own race, etc." It's not even really truly about race. Like in jail, I saw people lose their minds, right? I saw people in jail lose their minds, and I saw that they weren't the same anymore. I didn't want to be around those people. I would avoid them as much as possible. I hate the idea of them now being loose in society. That's just jail. In a European nation, okay, it's the worst jails in Europe, Eastern Europe. It's bad, but
So, back at the start of this journey, we heard Tristan say that they went from the courtroom to the cell and there was no leaving the cells.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen the cells they were in. I saw photos of them otherwise. But I did search for photos, and it seems that the cells are sealed against prisoners being able to see others outside the cells. So how could he have done this? Odd thing to say. Moving on, they spend most of the next 7 minutes talking about how great Tate's Hustler University programs are. And then they get into their thoughts about the over-medication of the general population, and it goes for several minutes, but then we get this, which is the last clip of the episode.
I don't even know what the statistics are, but I read something very scary about the amount of people in America that are on some kind of psychotropic
They start
drug.
them young. They'll be like, "Oh, you have
Is it like
anxiety."
20% or 30% of people or something?
It has to be more. It has to be more. Genuinely, like, everybody is on these drugs, and they know long term that these drugs eventually make you crazy because you're playing with the chemistry of your brain. You should never do that.
See, I apply this to my current circumstance. I apply this to my current problem because the way you always attack men to try and damage your influence is sexual crimes, right? So I'm applying this to my own case. 3 different countries, they've called over 2,000 women who I've ever known in my life. And they managed to find these 2 idiots, and you've done a breakdown of the case, which I super appreciate, and they haven't found anyone else, thankfully.
Actually, the number just in the UK is 4 women. The number in Romania was 7. Keep in mind, these are only the publicly released numbers. Candace has to put the very credible allegations aside in order to interact with these guys, and especially in her case, as she accuses people living and dead with being pedophiles and sex criminals, but not her friends. It would be bizarre if I thought she had any kind of consistency in her views. They spend the next 20 minutes rehashing much of what was said already, using the term straight homo as much as they possibly can. It's gross, and I didn't see the point in engaging with it further. But then, earlier today, I was listening to her show, as I do, and I got to hear something incredible. As I just allowed the episodes to play and play, I got to hear something absolutely incredible. The Tate Brothers' home was raided.
Oh?
This is the payoff. It was raided after she left and came back to America.
Damn.
Yeah. I found some articles here. Let's start with Andrew and Tristan Tate. Controversial online influencers are facing new charges in Romania involving serious criminal allegations. The Romanian authorities have initiated a new investigation into the Tate brothers, focusing on accusations of human trafficking and sexual relations with minors. This latest probe involves 35 alleged victims, including a 15-year-old girl at the time of the alleged offenses. The Romanian crime agency, DICOT, has stated that the investigation includes charges such as trafficking minors, sexual relations with a minor, influencing statements, and money laundering. The authorities have detained 6 individuals in connection with these allegations, including both Romanian nationals and foreigners. The investigation also involves allegations that the accused coerced vulnerable individuals into creating pornographic content for online distribution. The Tate brothers have previously been charged with human trafficking, and Andrew Tate specifically faces additional charges of rape. They are currently awaiting trial for these earlier charges. In response to the new allegations, Andrew Tate has dismissed them as pathetic and accused the prosecutors of fabricating evidence against him. The brothers have been detained for questioning following searches conducted at multiple locations in Bucharest and Lefov County. The legal proceedings are ongoing, and the Tate brothers remain in Romania under judicial supervision as the investigation continues. And then we get a little bit more. Let me scroll down to it. Yeah, the case file includes testimonies from several women who allege they were coerced into sexual acts and forced to produce pornographic content. Some of these women reportedly lived in a building near the Tate's residence in Bucharest. The prosecution alleges that the Tate brothers used physical violence and mental coercion to control the women. This includes transcribed audio messages where Tristan Tate allegedly made derogatory and threatening remarks. Prosecutors also claim that the Tates do not appear to have income from lawful activities, suggesting that their wealth was generated through illegal means, including human trafficking. The evidence includes financial records of substantial transfers and the acquisition of luxury items. Romanian authorities have conducted searches at multiple properties linked to the Tates, seizing cash, luxury cars, and other items as part of the investigation. And I think that was, oh yes. Allegations of coercion and violence. The prosecution alleges that the Tate brothers used physical violence and mental coercion to control the women, and this includes transcribed audio messages where Tristan Tate, allegedly made derogatory and threatening remarks such as planning to, quote, slave these bitches for extended work hours.
Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh. Yeah, prosecutors have also highlighted financial transactions, including a significant amount of money allegedly transferred by Andrew Tate into an online bank account under suspicious circumstances. Some of the evidence includes transcribed text messages where Andrew Tate allegedly admits to leading a human trafficking operation disguised as an adult content business. These messages reportedly mix expressions of affection with threats and derogatory language. The evidence presented by prosecutors aims to demonstrate a pattern of exploitation and control exerted by the Tate brothers over their alleged victims. Yep, and that is that. I got to hear about that because Candace talked about it, because it had become a bit of international news that the Tates had been arrested again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
God, they didn't even get to make it out of Romania this time.
No, they're stuck there. They're basically under house arrest. Yeah. So.
Yes, the lions are locked in their den.
Yeah. The lions are locked in their cage at the zoo.
Yeah.
And all their shit's getting raided, and it's like I said, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's the perfect end to tonight's episode. I'm glad that we didn't record last night.
Yeah.
Because I got to hear about that shit today.
Yeah.
Yeah. At any rate, what are we drinking tonight?
Toxic Waste Slime Liquor Sour Soda. Strawberry flavored, apparently.
Okay.
It is...
It just looks like a big-ass bottle of Red 40.
It's bottled by Rocket Fizz Soda Pop and Candy Shop LLC.
Uh-huh.
It's a product of the USA.
Where at though? Colorado, Wisconsin,
NV.
Nevada. Oh. Interesting. They know something about nuclear bombs in Nevada.
I mean, that's a fair point.
You know?
It's got a nice fizz to it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know how to go about this.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a cord in my way, just so y'all know. My brain wasn't. I don't know if I should go under or
Let's
over.
have a nice fizz to it.
Oh yeah.
Pour yourself up.
Figured it out, y'all. This is weird pouring with my left hand, but
You have a lefty. Use it every now and then. Okay. Honestly, this doesn't smell as bad. It's very strawberry.
yeah.
Let's go for it. Ooh. I'm not getting any super sourness out of it. I mean, it's good.
It's pulling in here on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, lower jaw.
I got nothing. And it tastes fine.
No.
Yeah. Finish them off.
Honestly, Man, I don't know. Maybe I'm just holding like bad to being a standard of dill pickle, but like I keep expecting these things to be like, okay, this one is gonna be the next dill pickle, and nothing is measuring up to it. Everything's actually been pretty good.
I'm so glad the blue cheese one didn't pan out. I'm so glad that was sugar water.
You know, I feel like we need to buy a blue cheese.
Maybe you do. I gave them their chance. They fucking ruined it. Not my problem. You can get it at the Blue Sun Soda Shop probably, or definitely the London Byerly's over in Ridgedale.
Yeah.
They always have that shit. Okay, well that's all that I have for this week. You got anything else before we close out?
Granted, I haven't really been reading the newspaper. I've just been reading the top headline on it.
Right.
Apparently Waltz is, metaphorically mind and paraphrasing mind, bitch slapping the fuck out of, Trump and, Vance.
Oh yeah.
Because
all over the place.
Because I keep, like, the first article I saw was, you know, Trump not doing the whole debates with
Kamala, what
Kamala,
he is now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw that first. And then, you know, then she announced Waltz. And of course, that was big news for like a fucking
Excuse me,
week.
goodness, yes.
From all the newspapers. You know?
Yeah.
And then, more recently, I saw a thing of, you know, Trump saying something bad about Waltz. And then all this past week has just been Harris Waltz victory this, Harris Waltz victory that.
Yeah.
And Waltz personally going, no, buddy, just no.
Yeah, they well apparently like you know the family focused right wing has been trying to give Waltz's son shit for crying when his dad went up and did his speech last night at the DNC. And people are like, this kid loves his father. He's 17.
Yeah.
Like, this kid loves his father and he's totally into what he's doing. Like, shouldn't you want your son to be appreciative of what you fucking do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like they're not getting anywhere with this shit. It's just, if anything, it highlights how unnecessarily cruel they are.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's I said it's typical Trump land fuckery, and I really hope he loses in an obvious landslide.
Yeah.
Like, because like I don't think it would matter much. Like, they'd still be like, oh, it was stolen. But I think if more people are able to push back and go, dude, I'm not even Democrat and I voted for the motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like slow your roll. You know,
I mean,
that guy was an insane idiot that didn't need it. He didn't need to be in office again. You know.
Yeah. The first 4 years was all he needed. After that, he seemed to have lost his shit.
Yeah, that first 4 years was a job interview. You don't get to repeat. You know? Like, yeah, especially J6. Like, come on.
Yeah. And see,
I think had he not done J6, he would have retained a lot of other people. But the fact that he did, the fact that he was just a sore loser.
Yeah.
And then he didn't even, like, I don't know if this is fact, but I read somewhere that he didn't even stick around like typically, like, you know, the White House is handed off personally.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, you know, you're coming in, here's everything, here's what I like to do, you know, don't poop in that bathroom,
Yeah,
that kind of
it's-
thing. You know,
it's like when a
like they
working retail and, you know,
Yeah.
the store manager hands it off to the new store manager.
Yeah.
They go, here's the layout of the building.
Yeah.
These 2 bathrooms suck. That bathroom's great.
yeah, you know, like any number of things, but yeah, Trump just like took off on January 20th. He just left. He left, and it's like, all right, buddy,
Yeah.
come on, man.
I-
So yeah,
they're-
they suck, and you know, it's whatever. I was glad that I was able to end the episode on a high note.
Yeah.
This is, the Tates suck, and I hope they go to prison for a long time, and then I hope they get extradited after their prison stint in Romania is done, however long that is, and I hope they go to the UK, where they will also go to prison,
Yeah.
because the authorities will have had enough time by that point to go, here is our case, get in the van.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And I'm more than sure that if they have any other dealings in other countries, it'll be.
oh yeah, it'll come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you, man? Sorry, my brain's just thinking, you know, you get out of prison, you think, okay, time to go back to doing my alpha male bullshit, and then somebody from the government just shows up and goes, by the way, we still have all your shit seized. You know how you did some fucked up shit in Germany? Well,
Yeah, right.
they want their piece of you now, so get in the van,
Yeah.
and if you resist, we all have tasers. We
Yeah.
will gladly zap you.
Yeah, we have tasers and nightsticks, because unlike that shit you said about us being your friends, we really don't like that. We're not your friends. We were nice to you. We're not your friends.
You know what looks great for publicity? A limp.
Yeah, right. We'll give you 1 limp or 2. You know what? Casts look really good too. On an arm. Yeah. Which arm do you not like? Yeah, like, yeah, no.
You know what else really helps, we found? A busted testicle.
We call it a busticle around the office. So yeah, y'all take your busticles and have a good week. We'll see y'all next
Have a good
time.
week.
Bye.
Bye.